He was killed on a balcony. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
Justice has been delivered, and this terrorist leader is no more.
President Biden announcing U.S. drone strike killed Ayman al-Zawahiri in Afghanistan's capital, Kabul. He's al-Qaeda's leader who took over when the U.S. took out Osama bin Laden and blamed for being one of the masterminds in the attacks on America, including 9/11.
The president said he kept Congress informed during the operation and also kept the promise to not let Afghanistan be a terrorist launching pad, even after U.S. troops left.
Fox's Gernal Scott. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is now in Malaysia, expected to go to Taiwan today. And Republican Senator Tom Cotton tells Fox she has to, after warnings from China not to go to territory it claims to own.
Taking provocative actions to see if they can get away with it. And if they can get away with it, what signal will that send our allies all around the world?
American basketball star Brittany Griner back in court in Russia today on drug charges. Her lawyer says,
well, it should be over very soon. So on Thursday, there will be closing debates already, so the verdict will be very soon.
And Maria Blagovalina says Griner is hopeful she can go home soon. The U.S. and Russia are considering a prisoner swap to free Griner and Paul Whelan, who's been detained since 2018 as an accused spy. Washington, D.C. police are searching for whoever started shooting in an apartment complex last night. One person was killed, 5 wounded.
We're seeking the public's assistance for any information related to the shooting.
Chief Robert Conti. The polls are just opening in Michigan, one of 6 states holding primaries. They can also vote starting now in Missouri.
Former Governor Eric Greitens had been leading his Republican rivals, but over the last month, as those rivals highlight his personal scandals, Attorney General Eric Schmidt has emerged as a frontrunner.
Fox's Jessica Rosenthal. Former President Trump endorsed Eric yesterday, didn't say which one. In Kansas, voters will decide whether or not to make abortion a right in the state constitution. America's listening to Fox News.
Life is about being active, whether it's about going on your daily tasks or exercising. You know you're well when you're regularly active. But what happens when being active actually hurts by the end of the day? This is the position I found myself in a number of years ago. Everything I wanted to do in my daily life, all of the activity it called for, was held captive to almost constant nagging pain. When I heard about Relief Factor, I was skeptical, but my wife said, give it a chance. Not long after I took it, I could feel the pain begin to melt away, and I've been taking it ever since. And I can tell you that Relief Factor has helped me get my life back. I love that it's not a drug, but it was developed by doctors, and about 70% of the people who try it go on to order more. Your first step to becoming pain-free just might be ordering a 3-week quick start for only $19.95. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF, 800-4RELIEF, or ReliefFactor.com. Find out all about this offer and feel the difference.
93.9, the Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. Robinson saves you time. It is 6:03, and it is going to be a scorcher today, folks, in mid-Missouri. It's already hot right now. 77 degrees already in Columbia, 76 degrees in Jefferson City. We are under a heat advisory. More on that in a moment. You're going to want to make sure if you go to the polls, whether it's this morning, tonight, during the day, make sure you bring water with you because it is going to be a hot one. Finally, if we try to break this thing late tomorrow night with a chance of rain. Good morning, I'm Brian Houseworth. Here's some of the stories we are working on for you on this primary election day. Mid-Missourians heading to the polls today should have plenty of water. The National Weather Service's heat advisory is in effect through 8 o'clock tomorrow evening. NWS St. Louis meteorologist Mark Britt tells 93.9 The Eagle highs today in Fulton, Columbia, Jefferson City will be in the high 90s, with the heat index making it feel like it's 105. The NWS is also urging you to wear light-colored clothing today and also never leave children or your pets in vehicles. Missouri Secretary of State is hoping that his projection of a 30 to 35% voter turnout for the primary today will be low. Republican Jay Ashcroft spoke on 93.9 The Eagle's Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
I would just encourage everyone out there that doesn't like politicians, that doesn't like me, get out and prove me wrong. Let's have a good turnout. Let's make sure we, the people, get out in mass and make the decision. It's sad when only, 65% of the people, 70% that could show up that are registered don't.
Now, the polls are already open today. The polls opened 4 minutes ago here in Columbia and statewide, and they are open until 7 o'clock tonight. You'll need to bring one form of identification with you to the polls today. today. That could include a current utility bill, a bank statement, or a government check. And as we reminded you yesterday on air, do not yell at the elections clerks there when they ask you to pick a primary party, because that's what you have to do today. You'll have to pick one party. You can't take more than one, and that is under the state laws, the secretary pointed out, because today is a nominating election. Voters in West Central Missouri's 4th District will have a new congressman or congresswoman in January. Incumbent Vicki Hartzler giving up her seat to run for the U.S. Senate. 7 Republicans vying for the 4th District seat. That district is now heavily Republican and has been. It includes northern Boone County, parts of Columbia, and the GOP primary winner faces Lamar Democrat Jack Truman in November. While the boundaries of Mid-Missouri's 47th state legislative district have changed, a GOP businessman is optimistic he'll win the seat in November. The district does lose GOP-leaning parts of rural Randolph, Cooper, and Howard counties, and it also adds Democratic-leaning voters in Columbia. But businessman John Martin believes he's going to win.
What I'm hearing door to door is very positive. Obviously, yes, it has changed. It takes in a little more of the old Southwest, and so it is more. It picked up some more Democratic voters, but I believe my chances are very, very strong.
Mr. Martin is unopposed in today's primary. He also notes that rural sturgeon is being added to the district. He thinks that will help his chances in November. He will face the winner of the primary today between Shimon Schwank and also Adrian Plank. Their primary race is going on today on the Democratic side. The general election will be in November. And the Columbia City Manager's proposed $500 million budget was unveiled last night and introduced at the City Council meeting. It includes construction of a new fire station near Scott Boulevard in southwest Columbia. City Manager Carlin Seawood's budget also includes money for 12 new firefighters to staff that station.
When we understand that that's one of the priorities of our citizens, and actually if you look at our budget, I think about 75% of the general fund is public safety.
Mr. Seawood's proposed budget also increases staffing for Columbia Police. He wants to add money for 3 airport safety officers, also money for a new police sergeant and a crime scene investigator, and a $1.5 million program to help them in terms of records management at CPD. Budget introduced at last night's council meeting. Under his proposal, Columbia would also spend $200,000 to study the Go Como bus system. It is one of his budget priorities. He wants you to view the bus system as a community resource. Mr. Seawood tells me many Columbia residents rely on Go Como to go to the work or go to the doctor or the grocery store, but he believes the city can do better. 93.9 The Eagle News is brought to you in the 6 o'clock hour by AirServe Heating and Air Conditioning, ensuring the air in which you live and breathe is comfortable and clean. For all of your cooling needs, log on to airserve.com. 93.9 The Eagle News time, 6:07. In sports, St. Louis Cardinals were idle yesterday, a day off for them, and they're finally back at home. Good for them to finally be back at home, and it is home sweet home. Going to be a tough opponent. You pretty much have to throw the records out the window whenever the Chicago Cubs come to town, because they definitely would like to beat the Cardinals. 6:45 tonight, first pitch, Cardinals at Busch Stadium. You'll hear it on KTGR, which is FM 100.5. That's because Branden and I are going to be on the air here on the Eagle with election night coverage starting at 8. So keep that in mind. If you want to hear the Cardinals tonight, 100.5 KTGR. They're also on the AM at 1580, but KTGR is the big one on the FM you'll be able to pick up throughout the region. They play the Cubs tonight. Wainwright on the mound. Royals looked pretty good last night. Salvador Perez, he missed more than 30 games, thumb injury. He had surgery, and they were worried about his bat speed. He comes back, hits a mammoth home run against the all-star closer on the Yankees last night. You wouldn't believe this shot. He hit at Chicago Stadium. The crowd just stunned again as he hits this one over the wall. Whit Merrifield, maybe his last game, perhaps. A lot of rumors about him with the trading deadline. Royals win over the White Sox 2-1. Perez, Merrifield homering in the game. Sports brought to you by Lacrosse Lumber, 6:09. All right, John, thank you. And our weather brought to you this hour by Steve'sPestControl.com. Bright sunshine later today. It's clear, 77. 610, 93.9 The Eagle, 93.9theeagle.com. Traffic, midmohires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. Our roads right now are pretty quiet here in mid-Missouri. If you want to report a traffic issue, 573-874-9390. I'm Brian Houseworth, 93.9 The Eagle.
Republican Senate candidates here in Missouri are running against so-called rhinos, Republicans in name only, almost as much as they are running against the Democrats' agenda in Washington. Current frontrunner, Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmitt, criticizes both of his opponents, six-term Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler and former Governor Eric Greitens, who resigned from the job amid sexual misconduct allegations. Schmitt tells me he does not think that they have what it takes to take on their own party. Hartzler is disputing those who say her decade in Washington is a bad thing. She says her 6 terms in Congress proves she can deliver on campaign promises.
And don't forget that 4th congressional district race. That's a big one, too. Rick Bratton, Mark Alford, Kalina Bruce, also Taylor Burks, big names in that race. And in the Senate race, in case you're one of those that you need to decide first, okay, who's this guy going to vote for? Whoever they tell me to vote for, that's who I'm going to vote for. Good news, especially if you're waiting on Trump to tell you who to vote for. Trump, yesterday on Truth Social Media, wrote, "I trust the great people of Missouri on this one to make up their own minds, much as they did when they gave me landslide victories in 2016 and 2020. I am therefore proud to announce that Eric has my complete and total endorsement." Your reaction yesterday when you saw this?
That is like the most Trump thing ever, I think.
Well, it was interesting because Stephanie had she'd been following this all day long, and she said, oh, look, he's coming out with an announcement today, coming out with an announcement. And when I saw that, it was kind of like, I almost felt like it was April Fool's Day. That was kind of my reaction.
Well, and people forget there's a third Eric on the ballot, which we always joke, it's nice when politicians can have kind of a sense of humor. And I saw a statement after the endorsement announcement from Vicky Hartzler. Congrats to Eric McElroy. He's having a big night.
Matter of fact, I reached out to Eric McElroy's campaign, which consists of a Facebook page. I said, Eric, my name is Branden Rathert, host of the show with Stephanie Bell, Hannah, and Brian Houseworth. Here in mid-Missouri. Could we get some of your time this morning to talk about Trump's endorsement of you? And I got a response.
Oh.
Says, hi, thanks for contacting us. We've received your message and appreciate you reaching out. Hannah, your reaction.
Oh, man. I laughed every time I read it. I kept going back to the post and laughing some more.
So
it is so on brand.
Yep.
And at first, I thought maybe it was just an honest mistake. Like, oh, bless his heart. Maybe he didn't realize we had 3 Erics running. And then a couple hours went by, and I'm like, nah, there's no way this isn't a troll.
So who's taking credit? Schmitt and Greitens. And guess what? That's the thing. That makes it even funnier. Within minutes, I get an email from Eric Greitens' campaign. In case you haven't heard, Donald Trump endorsed me today. I'm like, you are so full of... And then I saw Eric Schmitt, the same thing. I'm like, you're so full of crap too, man. You really are.
But think about it. I mean, Trump's whole thing is he's not tired of winning. He wants to win. And in this way, we kind of have 3 frontrunners, the 2 Erics and Vicky Hartzler. And usually he has a 50-50 chance. Usually he picks one person. Now he just gave himself 66% odds for winning tonight.
And I think the media, the national media, is really missing the point. Donald Trump knew exactly what he was doing. He knew what he's doing, and there's no doubt. I'm doing a little Marco Rubio there. He knew exactly what he's doing. But the fact of the matter is that Greitens and Schmitt are both correct to claim the endorsement because they are. Now, I guess theoretically this McElroy could too, from Tunis. By the way, Tunis is from Dallas County, so he's a little outside the area, but I hope he can come call us. I'd love to hear from him.
There has been some speculation in Trump's press release. He put Eric in all capital letters. So maybe that means Big Eric.
Well,
which would be Schmitt.
Right.
Yeah.
And Dave Schatz apparently is also claiming the endorsement. He said, honored and humbled. Thanks, Trump. Dave, parentheses, Eric Allen Schatz.
That is his middle name. It really is. It is. It is interesting. But, yeah, that's getting a ton of attention. And the one that really, really, really was hopeful for that endorsement that didn't get it, obviously, it was Congressman Long. He spent a lot of time at Mar-a-Lago, and in the end, he didn't get it.
Brand new polling just released from the Trafalgar Group. It's consistent with the past 3 polls we've seen, except Schmidt's lead has grown. If for what polling's worth, this just came out this morning. Schmidt, 34% of the vote. Greitens at 21, Hartzler at 18%. But as Hartzler told us on the show when we asked her about specifically not getting the Trump endorsement, she says the only endorsement I care about, the people of Missouri. Some of the important things to note with the changes in the district, 3rd and 4th district, you still be voting at the same place. You just might see some different names on the ballot. We have phone numbers if you have any questions when you go out to vote today. And if you have been out, polls are open now. If you've been out already, please let us know what you're seeing. 874-9390, 874-9390 you're seeing. And I know it's only 6:15 in the morning, but are you seeing really good turnout? Any interesting observations from the morning? We would love to hear from you here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Yeah, the only thing I would add, Brandon, on that, and we definitely want to hear that. Where there's a phone number specifically, and I'll give it at the 6:30 news if people are having problems. Again, they'll want to call that from the polling place. For people out there, make sure you bring one form of ID. You don't have to have a driver's license, not on this one. Bring one form of ID. Otherwise, you're going to have to cast a provisional ballot. It can include a current utility bill. It can include a bank statement, passport. Just bring something so you can get in.
And I do want to remind our Eagle listeners that the St. Louis Cardinals game will not be airing on the Eagle tonight because we will be doing election coverage from 8 to 10 o'clock tonight.
Brian Hausworth and I will be here. We'll have people stationed in other parts of mid-Missouri to get us the latest in local elections. Also want to remind you, besides that 4th congressional district race, if you are in the 3rd ward in the city of Columbia, 1,102 votes cast back in April in the municipal election for Carl Scala, who's been sitting on that dang city council for 12 years, and then Roy Lovelady. They tied. One person did not go out and vote back in April in that 3rd. One person. And we have ties sometimes, especially when you're talking mid-Missouri. We've got some small towns. It happens in places like Holt Summit and some of these smaller burgs.
It happens like when it's like 200 votes to 200 votes. It rarely happens when you're looking at over, 1,000 votes for each candidate.
So you had over 2,000 total votes in that race, and it was a dead tie. That is today. I don't do endorsements, but if I were living in the 3rd ward, I would vote for Roy Lovelady, the eccentric, feminine, this is all according to him, feminine, drag queen, transvestite.
Barber, right? Doesn't he also, he's like a barber.
Oh, yeah, and he does hair, too.
Yeah,
yeah, there's that. But, yeah, I would pick that guy over Carl Scala 8 days a week. Faux show.
I thought that Brian Hausworth asked, Boone County Clerk Brianna Lennon an interesting question last time we had her on the show, which was, what happens if there's another tie? And there was a very long pause before she answered, like, oh, dear God, please.
Joe came out of his COVID stupor yesterday.
We make it clear again tonight that no matter how long it takes, no matter where you hide, if you are a threat to our people, the United States will find you and take you out.
That's after apparently we learned that Ayman al-Zawahiri, who basically he was Osama bin Laden's right-hand man. He was like the king of Al-Qaeda after the death of Osama bin Laden. Fox News was really hyping this up, like, hey, yeah, it's good news for whatever Al-Qaeda is worth anymore. But I want to go back to May 2011. Remember whenever under the leadership of President Barack Obama. Remember when we got Osama bin Laden, and the nation rejoiced, and rightfully so. It's cool. I don't care who the president is. That's a good thing for our country. Immediately afterwards, because President Obama's ratings at the time, this was May, his ratings were languishing poorly. Bad ratings. Not as bad as Joe Biden's, but bad. This came out, his ratings went up. Except, you know what his ratings did not improve upon? You know what his ratings were really, really poor on back in 2011? The economy. The economy. It's deja vu all over one more time again, man. It's just like that. And I also, because I want to move forward, want to get into the daily DC rundown with Stephanie Bell. Because Fox News yesterday, they were hyping this as, hey, this is kind of a big week for Biden. He's got maybe some legislative progress on some things.
Maybe.
Joe Manchin, he's got that. And now the death of this Al-Qaeda leader. And we're about a year away from his disastrous pullout when Joe killed our American troops. People, why do you dislike Joe Biden so much? Well, a couple of reasons. Number one, he's a horrible president, doesn't get the American economy, and he killed some of our Americans in that horrible pullout in Afghanistan. That was 1 year ago. So I want to remind you of this when we talked about if Biden, and I think he has said it before, we go out, we get these terrorists, and we do this, and we will not be afraid. This is him talking after the death of Osama bin Laden.
And he said, I have to make the decision. What is your opinion? He started with the National Security Advisor, the Secretary of State, and he ended with me. I said, we owe the man a direct answer. Mr. President, my suggestion is don't go.
It was Joe Biden, the guy who is now our president, who told Barack Obama, then president, don't go get Osama bin Laden. He was the guy who said, don't do it. So he's going to stand on that pulpit like he did last night. Look at me, at my direction they did this. He is full of crap, just like most progressives. And like most progressives, the guy has no idea what he is talking about. Coming up, we're going to be doing the daily DC rundown. There are some other things happening nationwide. What do you got for us this morning, Steph?
Well, say what you want about Trump, but this morning, he gave that big endorsement, and we're not talking about the candidates this morning. We're talking about Trump. And in every other state tonight, we're still talking about Trump.
Still. Coming up, we'll do that 5 minutes from now. It's the daily DC rundown. Steph.
it would be a declaration of war, but I don't think they intend to do that. I think they're bluffing to try to see if they can compel Joe Biden to back down.
Senator Tom Cotton talking about Pelosi's visit to Asia, where she's apparently maybe going to go to Taiwan, and that's got Stephanie Bell said yesterday China has some thoughts on that, and that leads today's daily D.C. rundown with Stephanie Bell.
Well, local media in Taiwan is reporting that Pelosi will arrive Tuesday night, and that will make her the highest-ranking elected official in the U.S. to visit Taiwan in more than 25 years. China does have some thoughts about that, is ramping some stuff up. Now, the White House is actually kind of distancing themselves from Pelosi and just saying, and we heard Congresswoman Hartzler say, we can't back down here. We should be able to do whatever we want, and I agree. But the White House is actually saying, look, it's Pelosi's choice. She can do whatever she wants, which I feel is kind of like a weak statement because, I don't know, I don't like that. I think they should be supporting her more and saying, we agree that she can do whatever she wants. And if she wants to go visit Taiwan, she can, but instead they're kind of saying, we don't have control over her. It's not our thing. It's her thing.
I bet they get involved if China does shoot her plane down. I bet the White House gets involved then, and we don't obviously want that to happen.
I still think we are still looking weak, so I do hope she makes the visit, and I hope the White House comes out a little bit more strongly after the visit. Anyway, today, all eyes are on the election, including Missouri's election, but also across the country. And all eyes are on Trump, really. And so regardless of, what you think about Trump and whether, how important and whether he's going to run in 2024, his importance is still, everyone's watching him and talking about him, especially today. So he made the Eric endorsement yesterday in Missouri. He's made a number of other endorsements, specifically in Arizona. He and Pence are facing off. If you recall, that's between Carrie Lake, who's a news anchor, and Karen Taylor Robeson. And so a businesswoman. And so that's a big one that people are watching. The other one is on the impeachment vote. So there were 10 Republicans who voted to impeach. And in that case, so 4 didn't run. 1 has lost and 1 has survived a challenge. So it's kind of tied right now. Liz Cheney's probably going to lose. Her election's in a little while. But 3 of them are on the ballot tonight. So for those impeachment people in that category, tonight's really the deciding factor of whether, if you voted for impeachment, whether or not you can survive a challenge.
Yesterday, Randy Tobler on the Randy Tobler Show at 538 said in our 4th congressional district race in Missouri, and I don't know if you're familiar with 538, Nate Silver, and he does pretty interesting, he does stuff like nobody else has done. He said in that 4th congressional district race, Mark Alford has the best chance of winning.
Really? Okay. So a very exciting night for Trump. We'll be tallying up the wins and losses tomorrow.
And, of course, coverage tonight starting at 8 o'clock, 8 to 10 here on 93.9 The Eagle. Christopher Arps, one of my favorite politicos from the state of Missouri, knows Missouri politics. Going to get some of his thoughts, maybe some if you are looking for guidance on how to vote. Chris Arps going to be joining us about 5 minutes from now.
If you're having a problem with ants, mosquitoes, or any other type of pest, don't worry because you have a friend in the pest control business, Steve's Pest Control.
Fox News, I'm Chris Foster. President Biden says no one else was hurt in the precision drone strike in Afghanistan that killed al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri.
Our intelligence community located Zawahiri earlier this year. He had moved to downtown Kabul to reunite with members of his immediate family.
He says he gave the go-ahead for the strike Sunday morning. Zawahiri took over as al-Qaeda leader after Osama bin Laden's death in 2011. It's the longest sentence so far for somebody involved in the Capitol riot.
Guy Rathert, a member of the Texas 3 Percenters militia group, got more than 7 years in prison after being found guilty of storming the Capitol building armed with a gun and protective gear. Rathert was the first person to stand trial for actions caught on video on January 6, 2021.
Fox's Grinnell Scott. California is joining New York and Illinois, declaring a state of emergency over an outbreak of monkeypox cases. America's listening to Fox News.
And now award-winning local news coverage with Brian Houseworth on 93.9 The Eagle.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. Robinson saves you time. It is 6:31. It is a hot one today in mid-Missouri. It will continue to warm up. Our high today will be in the upper 90s, but the heat index will make it feel like it's 105 degrees. Right now in Columbia, 77 degrees. Good morning. I'm Brian Houseworth. 6:31 is our time. A heat advisory remains in effect for the entire listening area, all of mid-Missouri, Columbia, Jefferson City, Boonville, Moberly, through tomorrow evening. National Weather Service St. Louis meteorologist Mark Britt says the highest today will be in the upper 90s, but it will feel like 105 today, 110 tomorrow. He is urging you to drink plenty of water as you get ready to go voting today, and make sure you bring water with you to the polls. Missouri Secretary of State projecting a 30 to 35% voter turnout for today's primary election. Jefferson City Republican Jay Ashcroft encourages you to go to the polls today.
If you're registered, you can vote. Go to your polling place if you haven't already voted, and you will be able to vote. Your votes will count.
Polls are open statewide today from 6 a.m. until 7 p.m. You'll need to bring one form of identification with you to the polls. That can include your voter ID card. It also can include a paycheck. Here in Columbia, there is a runoff election in the 3rd Ward. Lots of interest there. Carl Scala and Roy Lovelady locked into a tie back in April, 1,102 votes apiece. The proposed $500 million budget from Columbia City Manager DeCarlin Seawood introduced at last night's council meeting. That proposal includes a 4% across-the-board pay raise for city employees. He tells me the pay raises are critical for recruitment and retention. You'll have an opportunity to testify about that at the next council meeting. Our news time, 6:33. And our news brought to you by MidAmericaMortgage.us. Apply now for a loan on your dream home. Now to sports. I'm going to start with a trade here that the Cardinals made. Now, this is a name that some of you may not recognize, but he is a good pitcher. You'll recognize the name if you follow baseball closely. Jose Quintana. And you might remember he was a starter for a couple of years, and then they moved him in Pittsburgh to the bullpen. The Pirates have traded him to the Cardinals in exchange for Oviedo and a infield prospect by the name of Malcolm Nunez. So both of those guys heading out to Pittsburgh. The Cardinals get Quintana. A lot of excitement there. He is a left-hander, and he is on his way to St. Louis. Cardinals opening up a 3-game homestand with the Cubs tonight at Busch Stadium. Throw the records out the window anytime they come to town. Adam Wainwright, Uncle Charlie on the mound tonight, 6:45 first pitch. You'll hear it live on KTGR, which you normally do anyway, but the game on the Eagle will not be broadcast because Branden and I will have election night coverage tonight. So if you're a Cardinal fan, you want to tune into 100.5 KTGR. Salvi Perez hit a home run last night. Merrifield did as well. Royals beat the White Sox 2-1 in Chicago. Sports brought to you by Witt Print Shop, where your printed products are so much more than ink and paper. Our news time, 6:34. Traffic, MidmoHires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. MidmoHires.com. Find a job, post your job opening. Today, our roads right now are pretty quiet here in mid-Missouri. If you want to report a traffic issue, you can give us a call or a text, 573-874-9390. More team coverage in less than 30 minutes and breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Houseworth, 93.9 The Eagle.
Chris. Hi, I'm Becky Arps, and I am so excited that you get to experience a bit of the thoughts I hear every single day. Enjoy.
Chris. This is the kind of stuff Chris for Arps lives for, man. ChrisArps.com. Check out his website. Always cool stuff, and they're constantly updated by his better half. That is Becky. How excited are you for today?
I'm very excited, but before we get into all this, my friend, first of all, I want to say welcome back, and I want to thank you for allowing me to take the helm of your baby for one morning. I really appreciate it. Had a great time. Hannah held my hand and guided me all the way through.
Well,
and I had Becky with me, which helped also.
So you had Becky holding one hand, your lovely wife, Becky Arps,
Exactly.
held one hand. Hannah, the producer, held the other hand and just swung you right through what is Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Well, and that was after he had to take
if I wanted to.
That was after he had to take a boat ride to get into the radio station.
Exactly. It was almost late to the station, but that's a whole other story.
Well, I was excited to learn between with Stephanie Bell and you and Becky and Steve Spellman, by the way, local guy last weekend. Always, it makes you feel better, whenever you leave. That hey, man, the show is going to be okay. So I appreciate you doing that. Today, obviously, big day. Primaries in Missouri. Let me start here. Your reaction when I saw Trump last night endorse Eric. I was just like, oh, man, he got me. It was like April Fool's Day. What was your reaction?
First of all, of course, we were doing the show, Tim Jones, the Chris Arps show on News Talk STL at that time. And during the breaks before the announcement, my co-partner, Speaker Tim Jones, he actually said that. What if Trump endorses both Erics? And we joked and laughed and had a good time about it. And then when he did it, we were like, oh, my God, we were just saying this. After we laughed about it, I feel a little bit it's kind of mocking the process. I mean, look, our country is in serious trouble. Most Americans say the country is on the wrong track. We need new leadership. We need to get Republicans in the Senate and the House, take it over so we can at least try to stop some of the things the Democrats want to do for the next 2 years. This is serious business. In a sense, it kind of mocks the process a little bit with him endorsing both Eric. And it shows what we already know about Donald Trump, that Donald Trump is about Donald Trump. And instead of us today talking about who is the best candidate for Missouri to represent us in the Senate, we're talking about which Eric did the president really endorse. And all of the focus and spotlight, which should be on these candidates and the issues, is on Donald Trump today, and that disappoints me a little bit.
See, I'd back the bus up even further. I think this whole thing, who's going to endorse who? I'm not going to vote until I figure out who that guy tells me to vote. I think it's a crock of, you know what? This whole day, we wait for endorsements. I don't care who endorses who. Donald Trump nor anybody else, any organization, they do not shape the way that I vote. I think the whole thing, frankly, is silly.
But here's why it's important, Brandon, because if you looked at these polls the last few months, it showed like between 15 and 17% undecided. Mm-hmm. If you take that 15 and 17% undecided and add half of that or that whole total to some of these candidates, they win. So I think a lot of people are sitting around and waiting on Donald Trump, who he would support, and they could really, have an impact on the race.
Well, and what are your thoughts about the endorsement splitting the vote between the two Erics and maybe giving a hand up to Vicky Hartzler?
I think that is a definite possibility. Vicky Hartzler, she is still in the race as they have her at either first or second. I think that's a possibility. Could help her. Who knows? I mean, it's just I can't wait till 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, whenever we start getting polls to see how this thing is going to shake out.
We're going to be providing election coverage 8 to 10 tonight here on 93.9 The Eagle. So then, let me ask you this while we're talking about endorsements. Josh Hawley, as a matter of fact, Stephanie and I, well, you were there too in St. Louis, statewide Lincoln days when Josh came and endorsed Vicky Hartzler. The 4 polls now, including the very latest, which just came out this morning from the Trafalgar Group, shows not only is Schmidt leading again, but shows his lead over Greitens and Hartzler has actually increased in this. So Hartzler's got the Hawley endorsement. Does this, what, if anything, does this say to you about a Hawley endorsement?
No, it doesn't say anything.
Doesn't say anything, you don't think? Look, so wait, hold up. Yeah. So the Trump endorsement says a lot, but a Hawley endorsement doesn't say anything?
Look, Donald Trump runs the Republican Party. You know that. I know that. Everybody knows that. He is the 300-pound gorilla in the room, and this is his party. Josh Hawley is very popular in Missouri. People like him, but he's no Donald Trump, and you know that, and I know that. And I don't think this hurts at all his endorsement power. Donald Trump is an enigma and a force, and I don't think a freshman senator's endorsement is going to match up with Donald Trump, the former president of the United States.
Well, what about this one? So the Democrat primary got really nasty in the last 2 weeks, and I guess late last night, Bernie Sanders made an endorsement of Lucas Kunce against Trudy Bush Valentine. You have any feel? I feel like this race is more centered in St. Louis since she's there. You have any feel for, how that one's going to shake out?
Well, I tell you, there was a poll that came out last week regarding those two, and Trudy Bush Valentine only had like a 2-point lead, which means that it was in the margin of error. I think Trudy Bush Valentine is going to pull it out because she has a name recognition and the money, but the race is going to be a lot closer than people thought it would be. And, Missouri, what's really been surprising me here in St. Louis, and I think I may have said this last week, is just all the support, the black support in St. Louis that Trudy Bush Valentine is not getting. It seems like the Democratic Party has shifted more to a populist party in Missouri and nationwide, and they are rejecting a beer heiress who could basically write a check and fund her whole campaign. I mean, the Democrats have gone full populist, and Lucas Kunce being in close proximity to Valentine proves that to me.
All right, Chris Arps. ChrisArps.com is joining us here on the show. I want to share a text, 874-9390. By the way, if you've been out and you voted already this morning, we would love to really hear from you, even if you just called in for 15 seconds. Polling place was busy. It wasn't busy, or there were issues, whatever. We want to hear that. You're out there on the streets in mid-Missouri this morning, so we do want to hear from you. Listener Nathan says, I was number 12 at my voting place on Ballinger. 24 freaking repubs up for senator, including 3 Erics. There's 3 Erics in the Republican primary for Senate. And I asked him, I said, well, do you know who you voted for in the 4th congressional district race? And he says, yep, I voted for Taylor Burks. And I asked him, I said, when did you decide who you were going to vote for senator? Because we've been getting a lot of folks recently that are up until the wire. I don't know who I'm voting for. Check this out. He says, I decided as I sat down to vote.
Wow.
Who to vote for in the Senate. So let me ask you, Chris. But first, Stephanie has. No, I'm just going to ask you real quick.
Sure.
Do you know? I'm not asking who you are voting for. My question to you is, do you know who you are voting for in our Senate race?
Well, I can tell you this: who I'm not voting for. How about that? I can tell you that I will not be voting for the former governor.
Okay.
I'll leave it at that.
All right.
I was just going to go all lawyer on you, Branden. As Branden encourages everyone to tell us about their polling place, do not send us a picture of your voted ballot after you filled the circle in. There is a law on that. Please don't take a picture of your ballot after you filled the bubbles in and text it to us or post it on social media.
Hey,
Thank you.
I've broken that law before.
It's an easy one to do, and it does catch a lot of people, and people say, actually, you're not supposed to do that. So, yeah, I mean, tell us who you're voting for, share your favorite candidates' posts on social media, but don't post a picture of your voted ballot.
Hey, Stephanie, I knew I was breaking the law, but I kind of had that mindset. Come to my house and arrest me.
It's kind of like when I'm going to St. Louis to see Chris. I know the speed limit is 70 miles per hour, but I go 75. Nobody's busted me yet. Chris, I want to do 2 things. Are you able to hang out for a few minutes?
Let's do it.
All right. I want to chat some more about some of the things that we are finding on ChrisArps.com, maybe reaction to some other things regarding Osama bin Laden's former right-hand man. And the way that Joe Biden, because I think it's important we look at history here with Joe on this. We'll put Chris on hold, be back with him in just a few minutes. Rob, welcome into the show. You just got done voting. How was it?
I was the only one in there. So it's right across from the Mill Creek Elementary School church right there. There was nobody in there except for the workers and myself.
Do you usually vote? Do you usually vote this early?
Yeah. I mean, I'm on my way to work, so I want to get it. Plus, there's no one in there, so that's probably the best way to go. So.
Amen. Is it usually that light when you're voting this early in the morning?
Yeah, it is. Okay. I mean, I've done the afternoon, late in the day, where it's a little crowded. I think people are still drinking their coffee, figuring out the 27 senators that you might have to look at on a ballot. So,
hey, Rob, I want to get your thoughts on this. And I'm not asking who you voted for in the Senate race. When did you decide who you were going to vote for? One of our listeners just texted and said, I didn't figure it out until I sat down at the polling place, and I'm just about there with this dude. When did you figure it out?
I'd probably say last night. I mean, there's the three main names that everyone throws around. I didn't even consider. I want something new. So I want a little bit different this time, and probably not going to happen who I want, but I'm just so tired of we're so stale.
Dude,
and it's the same thing over and over again with both sides, but with all parties. It's just they get nothing done. They tell you all the BS on their commercials, and then they go in to Congress or the Senate, and they don't even do what they said they were going to do. So
I hear you, man. I feel what you're saying. Rob, thanks for taking time out of your day to be a part of Wake Up Mid-Missouri this morning. All right, 874-9390. Coming up more with Chris's thoughts on the taking out of what used to be Osama bin Laden's right-hand man. And the way Joe is boasting and taking credit for it.
Chris.
Atterbury Auction and Realty Company. They're becoming very well known. They're doing online auctions, like everything. Whether you're bidding on land, acres of land, homes, whatever, you do it online. AtterburySales.com. And the best part is all the pictures, all the specs, everything you want to know. And then there's info on when there's going to be an open house. And then they do things besides, homes and properties. Check this out. There was a family here in mid-Missouri, the Kepke family, and this guy used to work for Pepsi back in the 70s, and he would travel around with Pepsi and given him an opportunity to travel conventions. He's got all this collectible stuff, and now it's up for auction. Kind of interesting stuff, plus Snow Village Collection, Boyd Bears, Roseville Pottery, all kinds of interesting finds just like this one that you can find at Atterbury Auction and Realty Company's website. Check out it. Even if you're not interested in checking this stuff out, check out how they are changing the game. Atterbury Auction and Realty Company, AtterburySales.com.
At my direction, the United States successfully concluded an airstrike in Kabul, Afghanistan that killed the emir of Al-Qaeda, Ayman al-Zawahiri. You know, Zawahiri was bin Laden's leader.
Joe Biden yesterday, I went after him at my direction, which is great. Hey, we got rid of the guy who was the leader of Al-Qaeda prior to this. I don't remember the last time Al-Qaeda has been in the news. Fox News yesterday hyping, hey, this is good stuff. Also saying it's been a relatively good week for our president, Joe Biden, potential legislative victories. Chris, how do you take this all in?
Hey, we were on the air yesterday when it was announced that al-Zawahiri was killed, and I remember the name, but I had forgotten what he looked like. And we have a TV in the studio, and I saw a picture of him, and that's when I remembered how he was the second in command with Osama bin Laden. They both planned 9/11, so this was justice delayed, and I'm very pleased that al-Zawahiri is joining Osama bin Laden, and they're getting their enjoying their 72 virgins. Now, if you allow me to put on my tinfoil hat conspiracy hat here for a minute, I think it was very surprising, lack of better words, that this announcement was made probably a half hour before Donald Trump made his announcement about who he was endorsing in the U.S. Senate race. I think that was timed. I think the president administration timed it to make that announcement so that this would be leading the news instead of Donald Trump's endorsement in Missouri. I truly do believe that, because this operation happened on Sunday. Why did he announce Friday or a Monday late afternoon to announce it? Why did they announce it Monday morning?
Chris Arps, Missouri. I call him a Missouri Politico. I don't think he likes that term, but great website, chrisarps.com.
I love it, actually.
If you have another tinfoil hat, I'm going to put it on for a little bit here too. Well, here's why. After we got Osama bin Laden, spring of 2011, Biden was doing some kind of conference thing or whatever a couple of years after that, and he openly said he encouraged Obama not to go after Osama.
And he ended with me. I said, we owe the man a direct answer. Mr. President, my suggestion is don't go.
So he says that we were all in this room and it's high stakes and these top level executives. And I told President Barack Obama, no, we shouldn't go do it. Yeah. So then when he comes out and says, at my direction, we did this, I think there could be some credibility in your conspiracy theory because, listen, Joe Biden, we've been looking at polls over the past couple of days. We quit doing Biden's approval ratings because they're bad. Yeah. The latest one yesterday, one of the polls had him almost 60% of Americans. And I was doing the math, and I gave up because I ain't good at math. But I'm thinking, if we have 330 million people in this country, and he has a 60% disapproval rating, that's a lot of people. A lot of people that live in this country, whether you want to call it registered voters or we can extrapolate that out to all citizens of America, the huge, vast majority of people, whether it's in mid-Missouri, whether it's the entire state of Missouri, whether it is in this country, there are 60% of the people in this country that do not like the President of the United States of America, and they need any kind of victory. And I'll ask you this, too, as we get ready to wrap up here. When was the last time Al-Qaeda had been mentioned in the news prior to this?
Al-Qaeda has not been mentioned in the news, and they are not the forefront of the Islamic terrorists right now. But al-Zawahiri was important to get because he was Osama bin Laden's number two. And he helped plan 9/11. So it was a very, very big deal. Hey, before we run out of time, too, I want to announce that Branden Rathert will be on my show this afternoon. We haven't got a time yet because my producer forgot to contact you.
Yeah, I'm not aware of this.
You will be on our show tomorrow or this afternoon. We don't have a time yet, so that means you have to listen from 3:30 to 6, the entire show. But you're going to be giving our audience your thoughts on what people in mid-Missouri are thinking about this race and other issues. And I think it'll be an interesting perspective for our St. Louis audience.
Yeah,
So
this is going to be...
looking forward to talking to you later.
This will be interesting for a lot of reasons. Chris Arps.
Because you're just learning about this.
Yeah. ChristopherArps.com is his website. By the way, one of the things I do appreciate about Chris's website is it is updated on a regular basis, so there's always something new, and you'll see him on Newsmax TV. Glad you're not on One American News. I guess they're done.
No, they're gone.
They're done. They're
Newsmax
gone.
5:30, 6, and 7 on Thursday this week.
Christopher Arps, ChrisArps.com. We love you, man. Thanks for your help, and I guess
Thanks. Talk to you later.
We'll hang out later today. In St. Louis, coming up, Brian Houseworth, some info you might need before you head to the polls today. Missouri Farm Bureau is here talking about the elections and the importance of getting out and voting today. Pro Pumping and Hydrojetting does a lot of things. If you get onto their website, you can see all the things they do. But basically, the three big things, they clean out lagoons, septic tanks, and they clean out grease traps. But here's the thing. I want to go back to the septic tanks. And I guess kind of the same thing for grease traps, too. The big thing is, especially with septic tanks, you call Pro Pumping and Hydrojetting when you don't need them. And I know you might be going, what? Call them when I don't need them? Yeah, really. And here's why. They can put you on a maintenance program for your septic tank. Now, if you maintain your septic tank, if it's in good working condition, and Pro Pumping and Hydrojetting, they're coming out several times a year, maintaining it, doing a little bit of maintenance, cleaning it out or whatever, that will prevent big, expensive, nasty, disgusting problems that you don't want to deal with. And I'm guessing you don't want your family to deal with it either. So see what they can do for you. Pro Pumping and Hydrojetting. Their website is pro-pumping.com.
He's no longer a wanted terrorist. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. A U.S. drone strike killed Ayman al-Zawahiri, one of the 9/11 masterminds.
If I was a member of al-Qaeda, I'd be thinking again about how safe a haven Afghanistan might be for me right now.
National Security Council spokesman John Kirby just told Fox they had been tracking al-Qaeda's leader since he went to Kabul, and President Biden insisted
that he wanted to minimize any risk of civilian casualties. So that put, an additional demand on the intelligence and counterterrorism community to make sure we could do this in a way which only got him and nobody else.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's left Malaysia. Second stop on her trip is Taiwan next. She is expected to go, despite China warning of consequences if she visits the island nation it claims to own. Republican Senator Tom Cotton tells Fox.
Once the Biden administration leaked this trip, I think in an effort to deter Nancy Pelosi from going, I thought it was essential that she go, that she show that the United States will not be pushed around by Chinese communists.
Brittany Griner is in court again today in Russia, where the star American basketball player's trial on drug charges is said to be winding down. Her lawyer says
she's hoping that sometime she could be coming home.
The U.S. and Russia are considering a possible prisoner swap that could also include Paul Whelan, is jailed as an accused spy. More rain is coming in eastern Kentucky, leading to more flood warnings. Hundreds remain missing in the devastation. At least 37 people died. There are statewide primaries today in 5 states, local primaries in Ohio. In Arizona, there are Republican races pitting candidates backed by former President Trump against others endorsed by ex-VP Mike Pence. In Kansas, primary voters will also answer a question
that asks them to decide
decide whether to amend the state constitution to specify that it does not contain the right to abortion. It's the first state to hold a public referendum following the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade.
Fox's Tanya J. Powers. America's listening to Fox News.
If you're living with aches and pains, especially if they're frequent and nagging and relentless, I want you to take a moment and think back to the last time you really felt good. Can you even remember what it felt like? Now, here's even a more important question. What would you give to go back to feeling like that again? Maybe it would just be nice to take a stroll with your loved one or play with your grandchildren. I've suffered from persistent, crippling pain almost all the time for about 5 years. When I started taking Relief Factor, I took it because my wife made me start taking it. I didn't think it would work for me. Yet here I am today, virtually pain-free, doing the things I love to do, all thanks to my wonderful wife and Relief Factor. I love that it's not a drug, but it was developed by doctors, and about 70% of the people who try it go on to order more. Are you part of that 70% that can get your life back? Your first step to becoming pain-free just might be to order the 3-week quick start for only $19.95. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF. Find out more about this offer. Feel the difference. ReliefFactor.com.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. It is 7:03 and Robinson saves you time. Clear skies right now. It's going to be a scorcher today. Our high around 78 degrees. That's what our current temperature is right now. Our high will actually be in the upper 90s today with a heat index around 105 degrees. Tomorrow's heat index will make it feel like it's 110 degrees. Great to have you with us. I'm Brian Houseworth. Here are some of the stories we are working on for you in this 7 o'clock hour. Missouri Secretary of State is hoping that his projection of a 30 to 35% voter turnout for today's primary will be low. Republican Jay Ashcroft spoke on 93.9 The Eagle's Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
I would just encourage everyone out there that doesn't like politicians, that doesn't like me, get out and prove me wrong. Let's have a good turnout. Let's make sure we, the people, get out in mass and make the decision. It's sad when only, 65% of the people, 70% that could show up that are registered don't.
And the polls are open statewide until 7 p.m. You will need to bring one form of identification with you to the polls today. Now, that can include a current utility bill. It can include a bank statement. It also can include a government check. A driver's license would work as well. Brianna Lennon, our Boone County clerk, is reminding everyone, if you have a problem voting today, do not leave the polling place. You want to call this number, 573-886-4375, but you need to call that number from the polling place today. Secretary Ashcroft says you can call his office directly as well. You can call both Ashcroft and Brianna Lennon if you have any issues voting today. Voters in Northeast Columbia's 3rd Ward are casting ballots today in a historic runoff election. This has never happened before in Columbia history. Incumbent Councilman Carl Scala and challenger Roy Lovelady tied in the April election, 1,102 votes. There's never been a tie in a city election until this one. Scala has served on the city council for 12 years. He cites his institutional memory as well as leadership in community access. Mr. Lovelady says the ward needs someone who will help them learn what is happening on the council and issues impacting their neighborhood. If there is a tie again today, we asked Brianna Lennon about this, we'd have to vote again for a 3rd time in an upcoming election. West Central Missouri's sprawling 4th Congressional District has had only 2 congressional representatives in the past 46 years. Democrat Ike Skelton had the seat from 1977 to 2010. Republican Vicky Hartzler from 2011 to today. Now, that'll change in January because Congresswoman Hartzler is seeking Missouri's GOP U.S. Senate nomination today. 7 Republicans are seeking the GOP nomination to replace Hartzler in today's primary. Winner will face Lamar Democrat Jack Truman in November. The district includes parts of Columbia as well as Hallsville, Sturgeon, Sedalia, and Fort Leonard Wood. It is considered heavily a Republican. The proposed $500 million budget from Columbia City Manager to Carlin Seawood introduced at last night's council meeting. Seawood's proposal includes a 4% across-the-board pay raise for city employees, along with a 1% increase for the top performers.
People who are average employers, they may get 0.75, and the people who are on the lower end will get 0.25. But the opportunity is for everyone to get a little piece of something based on their performance.
Mr. Seawood tells 93.9 The Eagle the pay raises are critical for recruiting recruitment and retention. He says he wants to make the city of Columbia the employer of choice here. He says the city has about 1,500 employees. That includes about 200 vacancies. Another key part of the budget that was unveiled last night by Mr. Seawood had introduced would spend $200,000 to study the city's bus system. It's called Go Como. It is one of his top priorities. He wants you to view our bus system as a community resource. Seawood tells reporters many Columbia residents rely on the bus service to go to work or to visit the doctor, the grocery store, but he says the city can do better. That proposal is now before the council. You'll have the opportunity to testify at the August 15th hearing about any of these issues. There'll also be a rare Saturday Columbia City Council work session coming up on the 13th, 9 o'clock in the morning. You'll be able to hear about the budget in detail. And a Mexican restaurant is returning to Columbia, popular restaurant after being gone for a few years. Our Zimmer Inside Columbia magazine reports La Tolteca is reopening the Broadway shops on East Broadway. That's near the Andes Frozen Custard. Zola Crowder, the reporter at Inside Columbia magazine, reporting they're offering new dishes as well. And you can find Zola's story up on InsideColumbia.com. Our news is brought to you in the 7 o'clock hour by The Candy Factory. The Candy Factory is in downtown Columbia, thecandyfactoryonline.com. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 7:08. In sports, the Cardinals opening up a 3-game homestand with the Cubs tonight at Busch Stadium. Adam Wainwright, Uncle Charlie, on the mound tonight. 6:45 is the first pitch. If you're heading to Busch Stadium tonight, even though it's an evening game, make sure you stay hydrated because it is going to be a hot one for sure. The Cardinals were off yesterday, so there is no game to recap today. Royals did play last night. Salvador Perez, boy, they have missed him. Had that thumb injury and then surgery, missed more than 30 games. They were worried, some of the ESPN analysts, he wouldn't be able to have his bat speed. Well, that has not been an issue. He's been back a couple of games, hit that mammoth home run off the all-star closer on the Yankees, who'd not given up a home run all year. Last night, what a shot in that game at Chicago, just stunning the crowd. Whit Merrifield homering as well for the Royals. That could be his last game, possibly. A lot of rumors about him with the trade deadline. The Royals win the game over the White Sox by a score of 2-1. Game 2 of their series coming up tonight. Our news time, 7:09. All right, John, thank you. Great work this morning on television with Megan in a very busy day for you as well. Weather brought to you by Steve's Pest Control, stevespestcontrol.com. 78 degrees. Traffic check, midmohires.com. Local companies are looking for local people, midmohires.com. 7:09 is our time here on 93.9 The Eagle, 93.9theeagle.com. No major issues to report on the roads. However, if you do see a traffic issue we need to know about, you can give us a call or a text, 573-874-9390. A reminder, some schools and churches, some community areas, the Hanover building over off of Clark Lane, just a few places, obviously many, many more that you're going to see extra traffic around as people vote this morning. So make sure you slow down on the roads today and be patient. That's the number one thing. Be patient out there on the roads. I'm Brian Houseworth, 93.9 The Eagle.
Republican Senate candidates here in Missouri are running against so-called rhinos, Republicans in name only, almost as much as they are running against the Democrats' agenda in Washington. Current frontrunner, Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmitt, criticizes both of his opponents, 6th-term Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler and former Governor Eric Greitens, who resigned from the job amid sexual misconduct allegations. Schmitt tells me he does not think that they have what it takes to take on their own party. Hartzler is disputing those who say her decade in Washington is a bad thing thing. She says her 6 terms in Congress proves she can deliver on campaign promises.
And for what polls, because the polls that matter, the primary polls, when we go to the polls today, that's what matters. But for what polls are worth, new poll released this morning, Trafalgar Group shows Schmidt again in the lead, 34-21 advantage over Eric Greitens. So his lead has grown for what polls are worth. And, of course, Trump yesterday, I think our collective reaction to Trump coming out and endorsing Eric yesterday, our collective reaction as we found out about this was...
It's basically, it really is a double endorsement. That's how...
Triple, don't forget about that Eric
exactly,
McElroy.
the guy from Tunis, exactly, Eric McElroy, which is in Dallas. I've driven by Tunis, haven't been in Tunis. I can tell you it is a small spot on the road, very small.
Quick question I want to ask, because Garrett Hawkins, who is the president of the Missouri Farm Bureau, is here. I want to talk to him for a minute. But I'm wondering, people talk about the power of a Trump endorsement, and from the get-go, I don't think it's going to matter. If you look at the facts, I was inaccurate. In my opinion on how that would shape out it has not been accurate. I think he's like 110, and there are 10 of the people he's endorsed that haven't won their various elections. But I wonder, let's say Trump yesterday, let's say he came out and endorsed Billy Long, who's been a distant fourth in most of the polls, I think polling in single digits, or endorsed Mark McCloskey. Do you think that Trump endorsement is powerful enough that it would have elevated somebody like a McCloskey or a Long?
Yes.
You think so?
Absolutely. Because his base, I'm going to tell you, Brandon, his base is they follow him. Now, there are, and I think in our audience, our listening audience, not all of them, but many of them, whatever he says, they're going to go along with.
Let me ask you this.
That's what I hear all over from him. I also hear criticism, but the people, the party loyalists, absolutely, they.
I just think that whole thing is silly. I'm going to wait to see who they're going to endorse and who they tell me to vote. And that's how I'm going to vote. Is that the way you vote? Do you wait for people to say, this is who I endorse, and I'm going to vote for that person?
Not at all. But again, I'm talking about the party law.
With Trump, that's a different ballgame.
Yeah, exactly. And he has so much clout. And I don't necessarily think Josh Hawley had that kind of, not taking anything away from him. His endorsement of Hartzler, while it was newsworthy, it did not seem to have an impact. But I do think if Trump would have, first of all, if Trump he waited so late, because a lot of people have already voted absentee. But again, I think the guy that spent a lot of capital down at Mar-a-Lago that has to be disappointed is Congressman Long. Absolutely. But we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what happens, if it makes any difference or not. And there's always surprises, too. And I got to tell you, Brandon, the other thing is this Democratic primary has gotten really ugly.
Lucas Kuntz and Trudy Bush-Valentine. What's interesting, we're getting some text, 874-9390. Listener Dave texted and says, I was number 35 at the West Broadway voting site. Brett says, I voted for Eric for governor, but I just do not trust him anymore, and I could not believe Trump endorsed him. Well, we don't know exactly who he trumped. Nathan, I thought this was really interesting. Nathan, I asked Nathan via text, I'm like, all right, so when you voted this morning, when did you make up your mind for that Senate race? He says, I didn't make up my mind until I sat in that polling place this morning. That's what it's like for people. Welcome into Wake Up Mid-Missouri. That's Brian Houseworth. He is the news director for the entire Zero Radio Network. Stephanie Bell is here.
Good morning.
There's Hannah, the producer.
What up?
My name is Branden Rathert. Garrett Hawkins is the president of the Missouri Farm Bureau. Welcome into the show. What's your message for folks today, Mr. Hawkins?
Good morning. Get up, get going, get to the polls, and think about Missouri values and the values that you hold dear within your home and within your family as you cast your ballot today. That is my message.
Yeah, and seriously, it's not, for me, this is my opinion. I know a lot of people, they wait to see who's going to vote for who and endorses people, but that's the thing. I think it's important what you just said, Mr. Hawkins. Your family, your values. Those are things that we need to think about. And I'm wondering, I don't want to get too off topic here, but we know farmers nationwide. Last I checked, I think we talked the economic impact of farming, agriculture in Missouri is about $100 billion. You probably know better than I do, but it's important, incredibly important, the agriculture industry, farming here in Missouri. Generally, how are farmers and ag people doing right now, Garrett?
You know, it's been a tough year. I appreciate the question. You know, if farmers and ranchers are anything, it's resilient. But truly, the economic headwinds that are facing this nation and all of us here in Missouri are impacting farmers and ranchers essentially in a double whammy. You know, as we think about inflationary pressure on energy, on food, et cetera, we as farmers and ranchers are consumers too. And this will be the most expensive crop probably that has ever gone in the ground, just because inputs have been just through the roof in price. And then when you think about just essentially a flash drought that has impacted the southern half of the state at a critical time, it's challenging. We were already trying to figure out how to make this year pencil out, and the drought conditions that we've experienced June into July have really weighed on people.
So I want to get past the primary for just a minute. So if we look back at the governor's race, when Koster and Greitens both won their primaries, the Missouri Farm Bureau actually came out and I think for one of the first times endorsed Koster in that race. Greitens, is in the running for the win today. The polling obviously is showing him falling back, but it's still a possibility. As you look toward the general, knowing that maybe you could cross party lines, what is the Farm Bureau looking for evaluating as they consider which candidates to endorse?
Well, thank you for the question, Stephanie. I'd say, it's kind of a historic time at Missouri Farm Bureau in the sense that our member leaders decided to engage in a few of the primary races, which typically doesn't happen. But because they believe so much is at stake in this election cycle, and given that some races could be decided in this primary today, our members decided it was time to engage. And certainly they know that the Farm Bureau brand, when they decide to get in, it means the force of the grassroots comes with it. And, sometimes you may not endorse the victor, but at the same time, our members, when they decide to get in, it's because they believe that they are endorsing the candidates who they believe best represent agriculture, rural Missouri, and our values. So in this case, Vicki Hartzler, Felina Bruce for Congress, even Mike Bernstetter here in mid-Missouri. Those are the folks that, as our grassroots members go through their process, which I have to say is very rigorous, from candidate interviews, questionnaires, voting records, et cetera. I'm pleased that our members are taking this so seriously, because obviously sending the right people to Jefferson City and Washington, D.C. is key as we think about common sense policies that are needed across the state.
Garrett Hawkins, Missouri Farm Bureau President.
Garrett, thanks so much. Brian here. I appreciate you, Garrett. For our listeners who don't know us, from Appleton City, which is a beautiful little town down in St. Clair County.
It is.
It got a great place down there that has pie. I can't remember the name of the place that has the pie down there, but
the Blue Inn
yes.
was the predecessor. Now there's the Farmhouse restaurant.
Yes, Farmhouse. I'll have to get down there, but I definitely remember that. There is a candidate, Garrett, running, a Democratic candidate. She has a huge following. Huge following on Twitter. Her name is Jess Piper. She's a Democrat running up in far northwest Missouri. And huge following. She has, I think, more followers than most of the statewide office holders. But she writes this. She's running for state representative on her page today about corporate farming. She says the Republican-led state legislature has passed bills favoring large corporate farms and pushing out family farms, end of quote. And she's suggesting these CAFOs, if you will, are polluting our community's treasured landscape without local oversight. How do you respond to that? And is the Farm Bureau supporting these CAFOs or not? What do you make of this argument here?
Well, my immediate reaction is those are talking points from a years-old playbook that's been used time and time again. Here's the deal. You know, farming and ranching is about choice. And as we think about how to bring the kids home to the farm families make the decision as to how to structure their operations that best meet their families' needs, as well as what's going to be needed as they think about the economic viability in the future. And you know, agriculture is a big tent. And yes, there has been controversy over CAFOs in the past, and folks talk about corporate agriculture. But what I talk about is opportunity. And for my family or others, choices are made as to what type of enterprises they want to do to diversify. And in some cases, you know, it may be contracting with a poultry integrator or a pork producer in order to add a few barns on the farm to diversify income and allow another family member to be engaged in production agriculture. So, you know, there are common sense regulations in place at the state and federal level that are protective of the environment. What we should be focused on is continuing to make sure that we have common sense tax policies, a common sense all of the above energy policy, all of these things in place that allow farm and ranch families to grow and to bring the next generation home. That's how our rural communities are going to survive.
Garrett Hawkins,
that's
Missouri,
my reaction.
Missouri Farm Bureau president, joining us on the show today. We're appreciative of your time. Don't mean to cut you short. We're just running out of time here. Thank you for joining us on the show this morning. We do appreciate your insight.
Hey, thank you, team. Appreciate it, and just appreciate the opportunity to talk about the importance of getting out today.
All right, thank you so much. Coming up 7:25-ish, we're going to be doing What's Hot with Hannah.
A bride has gone viral on Reddit for her crappy family.
You don't.
Nope.
Good morning, 7:25-ish, which means it's
7:28.
Time for What's Hot with Hannah.
Now, luckily, I cannot relate to this bride that has gone viral on Reddit because my family is not like this. But
Not yet.
Oh, thanks. Thanks a lot. But no, this bride is getting married in August, so it's getting close. It's here in the next couple weeks. And she's really excited about her wedding until she finds out from one of her cousins that her family has been taking money bets on how long her and her fella are going to last with their marriage. So she's on Reddit, trying to figure out, do I go ahead with this wedding? Like, do I just completely uninvite all of the family members that were betting against her? The worst part is they're betting that the groom is going to get sick of the bride, which is their family member.
Rude.
I know.
I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because you're surprised that this happens. It happens all the time.
Seriously?
Yes.
Have you ever bet money on somebody's marriage?
I bet on my own because I know I'll bet this is not going to last a long time. And I win. That's not funny. Never bet on how long people are going to be married. Not funny at all. Coming up, City Councilman Matt Pitzer. There's some big things talked about at Mid-Missouri City Council meeting last night, and that city was Columbia. Matt Pitzer's here 5 minutes from now to discuss that.
That weather check brought to you by Steve's Pest Control. Check them out online at stevespestcontrol.com to get your pest problem solved today.
Fox News, I'm Chris Foster. The Taliban calls the drone strike that killed al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri a violation of international law. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby says the Taliban's in violation for letting him live in Afghanistan.
The fact that we were able to take out Mr. Zawahiri in downtown Kabul without a scratch to anybody else sends a pretty powerful signal to the Taliban and anybody else who might harbor al-Qaeda terrorists going forward.
He was on Fox and Friends. Arizona is one of the states holding primaries today.
Arizona Republican Senate primary candidate Blake Masters is backed by former President Trump. His closest rival, power company founder Jim Lehman, highlights endorsements from law enforcement groups and the National Border Patrol Council. In the governor's race, Trump's backed former news anchor Carrie Lake, former Vice President Mike Pence, and outgoing Republican Governor Doug Ducey have backed real estate developer Karen Taylor Robeson.
Fox's Jessica Rosenthal. Voters in Kansas decide whether the state's constitution protects abortion rights. America's listening to Fox News.
And now award-winning local news coverage with Brian Houseworth on 93.9 The Eagle.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. Robinson's saves you time. It is 7:31. We do have sunshine right now in mid-Missouri. It's a hot one. Our high today will be in the upper 90s, but it'll make it feel like it's 105 degrees with the heat index, so be prepared for that. Good morning. I'm Brian Houseworth. Here's some of the stories we're working on for you. In this 7 o'clock hour, a heat advisory is still in effect for all of Columbia, Jefferson City, the entire listening area here in mid-Missouri through tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock. National Weather Service St. Louis meteorologist Mark Britt says the highs will be in the upper 90s today, tomorrow as well. And he is urging you to drink plenty of water, to wear lightweight clothing, especially when you go out to vote today. Most of these places have air conditioning. Almost all of them do, unless you have to stand out in a line. We're not seeing that at this point. Now, statewide, Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft projecting a 30 to 35% voter turnout for today's primary election. Secretary Ashcroft encouraging you to go to the polls today. They're open statewide until 7. You'll want to bring one form of identification with you. That can include your voter ID card, your driver's license, a bank statement, and also a paycheck. Now, I just checked in with our Boone County Clerk, Brianna Lennon, about if there's any problems right now, and she writes me back this: so far so good. So that is good news to hear. If you have anything you want to tell us as far as numbers, 874-9390, you can call or text us for that information. A historic runoff race today in Columbia. It's never happened before. A runoff race on the city council. Carl Scala and Roy Lovelady back on the ballot. They tied with 1,102 votes back in April, and Columbia City Manager wants to spend $200,000 to study the bus system. 7:33. Our news brought to you, by the way, by WillettDentalAssociates.com. Cardinal baseball. The Cardinals are going to have a new left-hander in their lineup. He's a name that many of you will recognize if you follow baseball closely. He's been on the Pirates, and as I recall, he started as a starter, but he's been in the bullpen the last couple of years. Jose Quintana. He's got a good fastball, moves that ball in and out. Not a very great team, but he's a good pitcher, and the Pirates end up trading him to the Cardinals in exchange for Oviedo and also an infield prospect named Malcolm Nunez. So Nunez will be going out to Pittsburgh. The Pirates get the two players. Quintana will report to the Cardinals. Should be in uniform tonight at Busch Stadium. The Cardinals opening up a homestand with the Cubs tonight, 6:45 first pitch. Adam Wainwright on the mound. Uncle Charlie will be pitching tonight. You'll hear it on KTGR. You won't hear the Cardinal game tonight on 93.9 The Eagle, as you always do. Not tonight, because we'll be having election night coverage here on 93.9. So if you want to hear the Cardinal game, tune in to 100.5 or 1580 AM KTGR. Salvi Perez, Merrifield home runs last night. Royals beat the White Sox by a score of 2-1. Sports is also brought to you by WillettDentalAssociates.com. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 7:34. Traffic check, MidmoHires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. MidmoHires.com. Find a job. Post your job opening today. Give us a call if you are seeing anything. I'm not hearing anything on the scanner, not aware of any major issues to report. As I've talked about this morning, churches and schools and some of the other buildings like the Hanover building off of Clark Lane, those are polling locations. So you'll see a little bit more traffic than normal in those areas, but no issues to report at the polls. Hopefully no traffic issues as well, but if there is one, let us know. And we'll have more team coverage in less than 30 minutes. Breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Houseworth, 93.9 The Eagle.
For the sake of public record, I'm advocating for the closure of Wabash to camping and loitering as a matter of safety. On record, I won't be using the word unhoused. I find it personally demoralizing and lacking in humanity. When I was homeless, I was without a home.
I love that. That's Anna Meyer. She owns Free Range Homes. She's saying, listen, we need to get the homeless people out of the Wabash Center. We spent all this money to invite people to come to downtown Columbia, and then we invite the homeless people there. We know the problems. This is nothing disparaging towards homeless people, by the way. These are facts. I've done a lot of work with homeless people over the years. So it's not disparaging homeless people, okay? Please understand that. So then the city goes, and then they spend all this money to fix the bathrooms that the homeless have destroyed in the Wabash Center, and then they spend more money to put in the Johnny on the spots on the outside, and then the city takes more of your money. They take your money, and then they give it to security to pay for security around there, and frankly, the business owners around there are sick and tired of it. Came up again at last night's City Council meeting. Matt Pitzer is going to be joining us here shortly. Want to mention, though, first, Jefferson City Council, they were looking at their ARPA money. They've approved, they're kind of approving the disbursement of funds, and one of the things that I do appreciate is they're giving in Jefferson City. City's ARPA funds go into the Convention and Visitors Bureau for lost revenue, which I thought was key. Yeah. City of Columbia Councilman Matt Pitzer joining us on the show. Two big highlights in your mind from last night's City Council meeting.
So the thing that kind of I've been, I guess, stewing about all night. So we pulled off the agenda. There was the police department brought to us a proposal to use this program called Fusus, which is this video surveillance software program. It basically allows them to have like a real-time look at any cameras that businesses or that are out there, and you know, somebody could opt in, so a business would opt in to join this program, and then it allows them to compile like real-time video of all these different cameras. The school district wants to participate in it from a security standpoint, you know, because they can tap into all the school security cameras. And so I guess I voted against tabling it, but the majority of council wanted to push this off for 2 months without even discussing it. And, so they could, talk about it some more and have, more
study it more,
look at it,
put together a focus group. Yeah.
Right.
Well,
right.
yeah.
So, it's one of those things that, people have been asking us to address, the crime issues downtown. You hear from parents who are concerned about, safety at schools. And this is something that the police department brought to us as a potential additional tool. They're currently, 27 officers short. And this is a tool that would help them in those efforts. And we just decided to do nothing for the next 2 months.
That just blows me away because, as a matter of fact, if we get time this morning, we've got the FBI has compiled crime stats for the year, and we go to as a matter of fact, Missouri has 2 cities that landed in the top 10 for most murders. Guess who St. Louis is run by? Democrats, progressives. Kansas City, they make the top 10 list. Progressives, Democrats. This top 10 list, it's all progressive leadership, and that is incredibly disgusting that some of our local servants here are not doing anything. Well, let's study this. Let's punt the football. Let's wait on this. No, we need help with this stuff now. And it's just remarkable how dumb some of these people can be. And I feel bad that you have to sit up there twice a month with some of those people, Mr. Pitzer. And I hope you don't get in trouble when you get back. But I do want to play this real quick. Our news partners at ABC 17, we're talking to people in downtown Columbia. And just so we're clear on what this system is, if I get it wrong, tell me, Councilman. But it's businesses that have their surveillance cameras. They give permission to the police department to say, yes, you can tap in and you can look. So they'll have this system where they can utilize their officer body cams and business cameras with permission to monitor that to help make specifically, I'm guessing, that downtown area safer. ABC was talking to people in downtown about this yesterday.
Anything that we can do as a community to just support the police department to make downtown more safe, I'm all in favor of.
I, of course, have questions about it, but if there's a purpose for them to investigate something or require that footage, I don't see a problem with it.
So it's 2 people. But they're saying, yeah, let's do something. And they just want to, let's study it. Let's have a focus group. My goodness. City Councilman Matt Pitzer joining us on Wake Up Mid-Missouri this morning.
Absolutely. Brandon, thank you. And good morning, Councilman. We appreciate your time. One of the issues that came up very briefly, it was a first read, but I definitely have focused on it in our news coverage because I think it's very important, is Mr. Seawood's proposal for security upgrades at City Hall. It's a $75,000 proposal. I've got a detailed story up about what it would include on our website, 939theeagle.com. But essentially, he is proposing, and the staff is proposing, enclosing the first floor information reception desk area with a door that can lock from the inside and a ballistic glass barrier. They're not being specific. We'll learn the details at the next meeting, but the city cites increasing safety concerns for those reception front desk employees. How do you, what's your take on that, and how do you intend to vote?
Yeah, I mean, I guess this isn't, unrelated to what we're just talking about in terms of, security and safety downtown. But so there is that reception area, right, when you come into City Hall where there's, usually 1 or 2 people, to kind of greet people and give them directions or show them where to go. But there have been a couple security incidents over the last couple months. And those people, kind of that are there, they don't have any. There's nowhere for them to go. There's nowhere for them to, protect themselves if they needed to. So, there had been a couple things that happened over the last several months. And I don't know if, we'll get into the details of those or not. But so this is a step to help, make them a little bit more safe in terms of, because they're just, whoever comes in the door, they're dealing with them and trying to help them.
When Brian was previewing the budget recommendation, he said there may be some surprises. And I think he's indicated he was surprised by a few things. When we talked to Mike from Como Buzz, he said, I'm not surprised by anything. Was there anything that surprised you seeing the recommendation coming out?
Not too much. I mean, I've been talking with the city manager over, the last several months. So I guess I'm not, I think most of those things have come up. So I wouldn't say I'm surprised. So I don't know what specifically you're referencing. I mean, there are things that I don't particularly like. There's another discussion about raising water rates, which has, kind of been a thorn in my side for a while. Is how we set our water rates and what we've done with them over the last couple of years. And, now there's a proposal to increase them significantly by at least 10%, I believe. And that's to deal with some improvements that are needed in our water system infrastructure. So I'm not disputing the need to do those. But I do question, how realistic the plan is that we've put together when we've had this list of projects and improvements that needed to be done for the last 5, 6, 7 years. And we're way behind on it. And, we haven't shown any real ability to, kind of stick to the schedule that we lay out. So I don't want to go out and start charging people much higher rates when it's not realistic to do the work in the timeline that's laid out.
Well, and wasn't that one of the options with the ARPA survey, was that the money could be dedicated to infrastructure needs, and wouldn't that at least alleviate some of the need to raise rates on folks?
Yeah, you're right. It can be used for water and sewer infrastructure. I don't know that there's 4 council members that want to do that.
City Councilman Matt Pitzer. So anything regarding anything else? Homeless, I guess we've approved a contract with a company that will come in and provide services. Anything else big along those lines before we let you go?
The biggest thing dollar-wise was just increasing the budget for the electric utility to cover some of their additional costs in terms of purchasing power. They go out in the market and they have to buy power on a daily basis to service our customers. So those prices have just gone through the roof the last 2 to 3 months. So we had to, dramatically increase the budget there. And that's, led into a whole nother discussion. If prices stay at that level for electricity for, another 6 or 12 months, there's going to be some serious financial implications on the electric side, in addition to what I was just saying on the water side.
All right. By the way, and I love the moment in the city council meeting last night as I'm watching this unfold. I think it's December Harmony from the Columbia Police Review Board or whatever, who has got kind of an interesting past anyway. And she gets up and tries to call everybody out on the floor and puts on sunglasses in the middle of her presentation. I just thought was odd. Said, "Oh, by the way, I haven't seen you at the gym in a while."
Hey, I'm always there, man. I don't know where you are.
Yeah, I've been gone for I hit my ideal weight, so I quit. I'm not going anymore. Seriously, I want to ask you this because we've been asking listeners all morning long, City Councilman Matt Pitzer, before we let you go. I'm not asking who you voted for because we are getting more and more text at 874-9390. People are saying they're walking into the polls this morning, not sure who they're voting for in that Senate race. I'm going to ask you, City Councilman. I'm not asking who you're voting for. Do you know who you are going to vote for today?
That's interesting. I don't. Wow. And I'll vote on my way to the office here in a few minutes. But yeah, we'll see.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate you sharing that. Anything that we can do for you, Mr. Pitzer, you let us know. Councilman's on fire this morning. I heard what he was saying about those other city council members.
Well, that was very powerful. Branden, there's one thing that really should be reported that no one picked up on in the other media and I had to pull it out of DeCarlin Seawood at the press conference on Thursday, but he told me at the press conference, and then I asked him afterwards, and he confirmed it. Very important to note, in Mr. Seawood's budget, he agrees with the business owners downtown. He does not believe the homeless should be at the Wabash Center. He wants them someplace else. He wants full funding for it. He's working with several groups. But that's big. That is a big deal because a lot of people, I don't think, realize that he's saying that we're gonna fully fund it. We're gonna get them the services, but the Wabash Center is not appropriate.
No,
that's directly from
downtown.
Directly from the city manager himself.
And so you see the circular idiocy here. So you have people like Andrea Weiner and Pat Fowler. Yes, we need to make this a homeless shelter. And then what happens? And then they have problems. They destroy the bathrooms. They take more of your taxpayer dollars and fix the bathrooms. Then they take more of your money to get Johnny on the spots outside. And then they take more of your money to hire security. Meanwhile, the city pumps a lot of money into wanting you to come visit downtown. A lot of people don't want to visit downtown anymore because we've had some shootings over the past few years. One of the things we can do to make it safer is get people on board with this video program where businesses voluntarily tell the police department, yes, you can look into our cameras to help monitor things downtown. And the city servants, nope. That is just incredibly stupid. Coming up 5 minutes from now, 5 things you can do to start feeling better. I would think one of them would be quit following politics. Did you put that on the list?
What?
We'll do that 5 minutes from now here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle.
Mr. Carl here, his election is tomorrow, his re-election, I should say. And I've met your competitor in that hall. Do I care for him? No. Do I know he's listening? Yes.
That was last night's city council meeting. Guy got up and he's talking about several things. And he brought up a good point about, you need to do the work of the people. But he was talking about, he said to Carl Scala, he says, you don't listen to me. Your opponent, Roy Lovelady, out in this hallway, he listens. And I thought he said that in a city council meeting. So that is today. Remember, these are the two guys, 3rd Ward in the city of Columbia, tied, I think, with 1,102 votes apiece. More than 2,200 votes. There was a tie. One person. Remember, so when we say this is one of the best examples I have personally ever experienced when we talk about every single vote counts. There was a tie with more than 2,000 votes. I do not live in the 3rd Ward, but I do hope Roy Lovelady wins. And the reason why is because Carl Scala has admitted as such that he is the problem on the city council. He has admitted that when he talks about the roll cards. He said, meeting a couple of months ago, I've been here for 12 years and that is the problem. And Roy Lovelady, and I say this, and he and I have talked about it, so please don't think I am disparaging the guy, but he is the transvestite cross-dressing hairdresser. And he is proud of that. He listens to people in that ward. He listens to what they want, and we've heard more than one person. Yeah, Carl just doesn't listen anymore. He's been sitting up there for 12 years and goes into city council meetings and then admits he's part of the problem when things can't get done, like something as simple as roll cards. Welcome into the show. There is Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
My name is Branden Rathert. There is Hannah, the producer.
Good morning.
Some things you can do to feel better today. I didn't know this. Just overall general feeling of good, and I like this routine. I'm a creature of habit.
Oh, yes.
But apparently that can help with your, when you get up, when you have a certain set schedule. I come and play in the sandbox with Stephanie and Hannah every morning, and then I leave here about lunchtime, and I go to this, I go to the gym. But man, I get to be like an old man if something throws a wrench in my day, but it helps keep me happy.
I told you this morning I don't really like surprises, and you said, Stephanie, we know that about you.
Yeah.
Stephanie's talking about some very impressive work she's doing on a legal level, and she's like, well, we had this thing, and, I don't like surprises. And I was like, yeah, we know, Steph. That's why. It's one of the reasons we love you.
To be fair, Branden doesn't like surprises either.
Right. I do disagree. This thing says make your bed every morning. I feel like that's a waste of time because you're just going to unmake it in the evening. I've never been a bed maker ever.
Getting out in nature. You could do that today. That helps to make you feel better. And I'm a big fan of that, too. I get out and walk every day.
I know how much you love the parks, but yes, I agree with this one 100%.
The tan line from your sunglasses also speak to that.
Laughter. So, see, we've got you covered here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Why'd you skip dancing?
Because I'm a 51-year-old white guy. That's why.
I don't know. I've got a video somewhere of your dance moves in the studio.
Uh-oh.
I'll have to see if I can find it.
From when?
It was a while ago.
Huh.
You were busting a move. You were by yourself in the studio.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if you knew I was filming or not.
Apparently I didn't. Do you dancing help make you feel better?
Oh, it sure does. I got to go to a concert at Rose Music Hall here in town. It was like a 90 dope. It was a band. I won't say the band's name. Anyway, very good, and they play like old school. And I danced all night long and just felt great.
And loved it, and you felt great. Gratitude. Showing gratitude is another key to help make you feel good. We do all this stuff here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. We do Feel Good Fridays. There's your gratitude, laughter.
I don't know how good we are about not holding grudges.
That's why I skipped that one.
I plead the fifth.
That's a couple of things you can do. Coming up, Missouri Republican Party Chairman Nick Myers is here. Very important election day, and what people are saying locally about going to the polls today. Hi, I'm Branden Rathert for Gap's Automotive Repair Shop. I love this, man. I've got a family doctor I'm going to see this week. My car has a regular doctor. For 5 years now, I guess I've been taking it to Gap's Automotive Repair Shop, and it's Gus and the same people have been working on that thing, and I love that because it's got over 140,000 miles. They've been working on it since it had 75,000 miles. My doctor, Dr. Sanssouci, my family physician, he's been working on me since I was 47 years old. But I like that you see the correlation. I like having a family doctor. I don't go to a different doctor every time. I go to the same doctor every time because he knows about me. And he knows, what's in my charts, but he knows me. Cap's Automotive Repair Shop. I take my car there every time. Yeah, they know what's in the computer about my car. They know my car. I would check them out if I were you. Cap's Automotive Repair Shop. You'll find them on Vandiver in Columbia and in Boonville.
He was taken out by a Hellfire missile. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. It was a U.S. drone strike that took out Ayman al-Zawahiri, a wanted terrorist.
The leader of al-Qaeda is dead. This is a great day for America and for freedom around the world that should be celebrated.
Republican Congressman Michael Waltz.
The bad news is that al-Qaeda is clearly back in Afghanistan, just like they were pre-9/11.
Al-Zawahiri was one of the masterminds of the 9/11 attack and others.
If you are a threat to our people, the United States will find you and take you out.
Well, the president also said that al-Zawahiri was taken out while on the balcony of a safe house near Kabul and that his family inside survived.
Fox's Alexandria Hoff. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's left Malaysia and is expected to go to Taiwan, despite warnings from China, which claims the island nation is its territory. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby tells Fox.
The aggressiveness, the coercion, the increase in tensions in the last weeks and months have all come from the Chinese side. What we have said is that there's no reason that this visit should escalate tensions in any way whatsoever.
Now, just what people in eastern Kentucky do not need.
Rain still to come in this waterlogged area of Kentucky and the Ohio River Valley.
Fox meteorologist Janice Dean, that's leading to new flood warnings in areas where there's a lot of damage, and hundreds of people remain missing, so the number of deaths expected to rise past 37. When President Biden addressed the nation last night on the terror strike, he was still isolated, dealing with a rebound COVID infection, though he said to be still feeling well, and he's focused on another virus of concern.
President Joe Biden has appointed top officials from the Federal Emergency Management Agency as well as the CDC to coordinate the federal response to monkeypox in the U.S. The CDC says there are more than 5,800 confirmed monkeypox cases in the U.S. It's spread to almost every state.
Fox's Tanya J. Powers. Almost all the cases involve men who've had sex with men. America's listening to Fox News.
Life is about being active, whether it's about going on your daily tasks or exercising. You know you're well when you're regularly active. But what happens when being active actually hurts by the end of the day? This is the position I found myself in a number of years ago. Everything I wanted to do in my daily life, all of the activity it called for, was held captive to almost constant nagging pain. When I heard about Relief Factor, I was skeptical, but my wife said, give it a chance. Not long after I took it, I could feel the pain begin to melt away, and I've been taking it ever since. And I can tell you that Relief Factor has helped me get my life back. I love that it's not a drug, but it was developed by doctors, and about 70% of the people who try it go on to order more. Your first step to becoming pain-free just might be ordering a 3-week quick start for only $19.95. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF, 800-4RELIEF, or ReliefFactor.com. Find out all about this offer and feel the difference.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. Robinson saves you time. 8:03, we have bright sunshine. Our current temperature is 79 here in Columbia, 78 degrees in Jefferson City. We are going to see a scorcher today as a heat advisory is in effect through 8 o'clock tomorrow night. Heat index will make it feel like it's 105 today. Good morning, everyone. Here's some of the stories we're working on for you in this 8 o'clock hour. With that heat advisory in effect, the National Weather Service is urging you here in mid-Missouri to wear lightweight colored clothing and also to drink plenty of water, especially those of you who are heading to the polls today. Keep that in mind. The heat index will make it feel like it's 105 today. Tomorrow, it'll make it feel like it's 110 degrees, and the temperatures will not be quite 100, but they'll be close to it on both days. Meantime, Missouri Secretary of State hoping his projection of a 30 to 35% voter turnout for today's primary will be low. Republican Jay Ashcroft spoke on 93.9 The Eagles Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Polls are open statewide until 7 o'clock. You do need to bring one form of identification with you to the polls today. That can include a government check. It also can include a bank statement or a current utility bill. Here in Columbia, the two candidates involved in a runoff election for the 3rd Ward City Council seat have similar but different visions of the city. Incumbent Councilman Carl Scala is seeking his 5th term on the council. He's been on the council for 12 years. He and challenger Roy Lovelady tied in the April election, 1,102 votes each. It is the first tie in a Columbia City election. Councilman Scala cites his community access and his leadership. Mr. Lovelady says the ward needs someone who will help residents learn about the issues impacting their neighborhood. Primarily, this is in Northeast Columbia and areas north of Interstate 70. Again, the polls open on that, just like statewide, until 7 o'clock tonight. Columbia and northern Boone County will have a new congressional representative on Capitol Hill in January.
West Central Missouri's sprawling 4th Congressional District has had only 2 congressional representatives in the past 46 years. Democrat Ike Skelton from 1977 to 2010 and Republican Vicky Hartzler from 2011 to today. That will change in January because Congresswoman Hartzler is seeking Missouri's GOP U.S. Senate nomination. 7 Republicans are seeking the GOP nomination to replace Hartzler in today's primary, and the winner will face Lamar Democrat Jack Truman in November. The district, which includes parts of Columbia, Hallsville, Sturgeon, Sedalia, and Fort Leonard Wood, is heavily Republican. Don Luzader, Zimmer News Network.
All right, Don, thank you. Here in Columbia, the proposed $500 million budget that was unveiled last night and introduced by the city manager to Carlin Seawood includes a 4% across-the-board pay raise for city employees. It also includes a 1% increase for top performers.
People who are average employers, they may get 0.75, and the people who are on the lower end will get 0.25. But the opportunity is for everyone to get a little piece of something based on their performance.
Mr. Seawood tells 93.9 the Eagle pay raises are critical for recruitment and retention. He emphasizes he wants to make the city of Columbia the employer of choice here. Columbia has about 1,500 employees. Mr. Seawood confirms they have about 200 vacancies. Speaking of Mr. Seawood, Columbia would spend $200,000 to study the bus system, Go Como, under a budget proposal from the city manager. It's one of his budget priorities. He wants you as residents to view the bus system as a community resource. He tells reporters many Columbia residents rely on the bus service to go to work or to the doctor or the grocery store, but he thinks the city can do better. That proposal is now before the city council. And a Mexican restaurant is returning to Columbia after being gone for a few years. Zimmer Inside Columbia Magazine reporter Zola Crowder reporting that La Tolteca has reopened in the Broadway shops East Broadway. Zola reporting they're offering new dishes as well. Our news is brought to you in this 8 o'clock hour by First State Community Bank. They're on Discovery Parkway here in Columbia. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 8:07. In sports, Cardinals opening up a 3-game homestand with the Cubs tonight. They were off last night. Pretty rare to get a day off now at this time of the year, but they had one. Hopefully they were able to rest up a little bit. The Cardinals and the Cubs always throw the records out the window when they play down at Busch Stadium. Should be some interesting baseball. Wainwright on the mound tonight for the Cardinals. 6:45 first pitch. It's going to be a hot one if you're heading there. Make sure you stay hydrated. And, of course, we will have election night coverage. Branden and I will be hosting that election night coverage. John Marsh, Don Luzader with reports as well. So we will not have Cardinal baseball tonight on the Eagle. And we always do. But but not tonight because of the election coverage. However, if you're interested in Cardinal baseball, you want to tune in to FM 100.5, our Zimmer sports station, KTGR. They will take care of you for tonight's game. Salvador Perez, the Royal slugger, Whit Merrifield home runs last night. Royals beat the White Sox 2-1. Salvador Perez had missed 30 games with a thumb injury and surgery. He homers for 2 games in a row. Sports is brought to you by Anderson Windows. Anderson Windows in mid-Missouri. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 8:08. Right now, thank you, John, and great work on television. Our weather brought to you by StevesPestControl.com. Sunshine 79. Traffic check, MidmoHires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. MidmoHires.com to find a job. Post your job opening today. Roads have been quiet in mid-Missouri. We appreciate Brandon and Hannah have gotten a lot of texts from those of you out voting today. If you have some numbers, if you have something that's interesting you want to share with us as far as whether it's traffic or just voting numbers in general, 874-9390. You can call or text that number. I'm Brian Houseworth, 93.9 The Eagle.
Atop the hill of idiocy, you talk about those local local.
Just back from Idaho, Branden Rathert joins us.
It's too late to hit the dump button now.
How was yesterday?
Now, I didn't quite have my headphones on yet. Did you say what I think you said?
Atop the hill of idiocy, you talk about those local local.
Yep, there's the hill of idiocy right there.
Who was on the Randy Tobler show yesterday? He's here each weekday, 4 to 6 on 93.9 The Eagle, and was on a show, and we were talking about elections and stuff like that, and yep. There was probably.
We see where your brain was at.
No, and see, it's not like that's totally a Hannah the producer thing, right?
No, no, it's not.
Hannah, well, you're closer in age to 16 than I am. Probably the last time I'll ever be on the Randy Tobler show. Check out his show each weekday, 4 to 6. I am Branden Rathert.
I don't know. He sounded pretty entertained.
I am the idiot on the hill that Hannah, the producer, is talking about.
Hello.
There is Brian Houseworth, director of the entire Zimmer Radio Network. And we want to let you know tonight that we are going to be doing election coverage. Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, and I will have Don Luzader, some of the other voices that you hear on the Zimmer News Network. They're going to be joining us with up-to-date info. We go on 8 o'clock tonight, 8 to 10. Nick Myers right now joining us. Nick Myers is the Missouri Republican Party chairman. And Mr. Myers, I'm sorry you had to hear that there at the open of the show. But that's, it's just the way it went.
Well, good to be with you, Brandon, and it's an important day for the Republican Party. We're going to pick our nominees today.
So let me ask you first, yesterday, Trump endorsing Eric yesterday, the Missouri Republican Party, your reaction to that?
Well, there's 21 Senate candidates on the ballot, and 3 of those are named Eric. So and we have lots of good candidates. I'm not sure which Eric he may have been referring to, but people are going to decide today.
All right. Maybe it was Eric McElroy, who is that 3rd Republican U.S. Senate candidate. Mr. Myers, so what is your message today for folks?
Well, my message today is that we need to get out and vote and pick our nominees to go into the November general election. Mm-hmm. We know that what's happening in Washington now with President Biden and the D.C. Democrats is just not working. Inflation's at a 40-plus year high. We've entered into a recession, and it only took him about 18 months to accomplish that. So we know how to make it work, and we've done that in the past. We've done that with Ronald Reagan, done that with Donald Trump, and even Newt Gingrich and the Republican Congress was able to do that with Bill Clinton. So we can do better, and today starts that doing it better by picking our nominees and then winning in November.
Let me ask you this before we let you go, Mr. Myers. I'm not asking as the chairman of the Missouri Republican Party. Have you already voted today?
I have not voted today. I'm on the radio, but I'll be voting shortly after 9 a.m. today.
So when you get done, you're going to go and vote. I'm not asking who you are voting for. My question to you is, do you know who that you are going to vote for in the Senate race? And I bring that up because we are getting inundated with text. It seems like a lot of people in our Senate race, they've got it down to two people. And we have heard consistently this morning, I think Hannah's been perusing some of these texts too, people are walking into the polls this morning, specifically in that Senate race, going, they're making that decision when they sit down this morning. And that's where I am, too, because I've had people asking me, what are you going to do, Branden? I'm like, I even had a gentleman last night. We've been on Facebook, and I'm telling you, I'm not trying to be evasive. I've got it down to two, but I don't know. So my question to you is, do you know who you are going to vote for in the Missouri U.S. Senate primary?
Well, I think I know. I'm in the position of knowing many of these candidates and observing them, and that's one of the things that the voters are faced with today is there are so many qualified folks on the ballot. That's why it's hard to make up.
Well, Nick, and you bring up a good point. I've highly encouraged, for example, people get upset whenever I bring up Eric Greitens, being a former Democrat and the former governor, and why he left office, not because of that chick in the basement. He left because some of the campaign finance records were starting to come out, and he was like, nope, okay, I'm out. I want to be clear about that. And then the stuff with the child custody battle and the allegations, there are allegations from an ex-wife. None of that stuff is important, but to me, it had been in my personal dealings with Mr. Greitens before the guy ever became governor. So my point in saying that is I highly encourage people, when these candidates come to town and they come, please, if you think you're a good judge of character, go and meet these people in person. Don't rely just on what I say or what you read on their campaign side. I think, because like you said, you know these candidates, and you know who you're picking out of all these talented people because you've met. I'm guessing the person you've met, Nick, you have talked to them. You've had dealings with them.
Yes.
Yeah, and
yes.
I think that's important as voters. I implore you, when you get the opportunities, meet these people. And so that's been my thing with Eric Greitens from the get-go, is just something about him. And plus, he used us incessantly to campaign, but then when he got into office, wouldn't come back on. Now I'm whining. All right, Nick Myers, chair of he is the Missouri Republican Party chairman, joining us this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Absolutely, Branden. Thank you so much. Nick, we appreciate you taking time to join us. Brian here, and I just have a quick question, kind of overall question, big picture here, because we've got a lot of primaries. Even Jason Smith's in a primary, Sam Graves primary, but realistically, Jason Smith down in southeast Missouri, the congressman from Salem, if he wins and that district is 56%, 56 plus Republican, so obviously he's going to win. He has told me if Republicans take control of the U.S. House, he wants to be the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee. Hasn't happened in Missouri since 1858. And my question is this, Nick, do you believe that Republicans will take control of the United States House in January?
I do, and I'm a CPA. The Ways and Means Committee is very important to all Americans, but really to the livelihood of CPAs, because you need sensible tax laws coming out of there. And Jason would be an excellent chairman for that. Yes, I believe that we're going to take the House. The projections are anywhere from 10 to 40 seat swing. So at this point, I think it would only take, 5 or less seats to have a Republican House. But in Missouri, I know we're trying to keep the majority in the Missouri House there in Jefferson City, and I know we have John Martin running for the Missouri House in Boone County, and James Musgrave and Sherry Tolson Reich. They're all running and will be good candidates. They're good candidates for the primary, and they'll be good candidates when it comes to November.
All right, Nick Myers, Missouri Republican Party Chairman, thanks so much. I know it's busy for you today. We appreciate your time here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle.
All right, thank you. Great to be on 93.9.
All right, thank you so much. I want to, locally today, 3rd Ward, that tie. So today's the tie-breaking vote between Carl Scala, longtime city councilman who, upon his own admission, hasn't been able to solve at least the roll cart issue. He said that in a meeting recently. That's not me picking on the guy. That's just quoting something that he said. That vote between him and Roy Lovelady, that is today. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes. Matter of fact, a text from somebody who lives in the third ward says, I would absolutely. He says, Carl's been there too long. And he goes on to say, he says, and there's a lot of things I personally do not like about Roy Lovelady, but he listens and he doesn't think he's better than me. Man. Also, a lot of text regarding voter turnout at the polls. And something happened at the city council meeting last, I thought was great, in the Columbia City Council and the Jefferson City Council meeting. As Jefferson City, they're starting to disperse some of those ARPA funds. We're going to do that coming up about 8:35. Meanwhile, 8:25. We're going to do the Morning Bell business news with that little twist that only Stephanie Bell can give you. This has to do with a local mid-Missouri company that's making waves nationwide.
he said, I have to make the decision. What is your opinion? He started with the National Security Advisor, the Secretary of State, and he ended with me. I said, we owe the man a direct answer. Mr. President, my suggestion is don't go.
That's Joe Biden several years ago. Remember all the hoopla in 2011 whenever we got Osama bin Laden? Joe Biden, several years after that, he's doing some kind of think tank thing, and he's telling the people in this round table, he says, yes, we were sitting there that night, and we were in the bunker in the White House, and everybody was going around, and President Obama was asking, do we go after Osama? Do we get him? We know where he is. We're this close. And Joe Biden said, no, we don't. We don't get him. So when he says things like he said yesterday following the death of Ayman al-Zawahiri, who basically he was Osama bin Laden's right-hand guy, when he says stuff like this.
At my direction, the United States successfully concluded.
At my direction, we did this, trying to be all badass and stuff. And listen, it is a great thing. I can't remember the last time Al-Qaeda had been in the news, but to get the guy that used to be Osama bin Laden's right-hand man, that is kind of a big deal. Fox was singing the praises of this accomplishment. And ultimately, it was Fox on Fox News. They were saying, hey, it's been kind of a decent week for Biden, potential legislative victories. I will say this also on Fox, and I cannot remember. Oh, the guy's name is Fred Fleitz, former executive secretary of the National Security Council under former President Trump. He cast some doubts. One of the biggest doubts, one of his biggest reasons for, and he's not doubting that this happened, but he's saying, you know, there is no Western media there, so that is just something to think about. No Western media that was there that can confirm this. Good morning, 8:27, time for the Morning Bell. Business news with that little twist that only Stephanie Bell can give you. She had to get out of the sandbox real quick this morning. So I've got this. This kind of bums me out because this is a big-time player nationwide. People all across the country know this product. This product is made right here in mid-Missouri, and it's made in Columbia, to be exact. I drive by this place every day, and I don't use its product. I might try it out of curiosity. You know, like when you're in college, you try a lot of things out of curiosity.
Whoa.
Wouldn't try it. Haven't tried it. But their stock has plummeted like more than 50% this year. I'm talking about Beyond Meat. Now, this is according to CNBC. This happened last week. Shares of Beyond Meat fell 6%. I think that was last Thursday morning after apparently McDonald's ended its U.S. test of the McPlant burger. The McPlant burger. So they were doing this test thing, and apparently things were looking good. But Beyond stock, who's fallen, who's based here in mid-Missouri in the city of Columbia, Beyond Meat stock has fallen 53% this year, dragging its market value down to only $2 billion at this point.
Only.
Yeah.
How will they ever financially recover?
Percentage-wise, that's significant. And we want them to do well, even though it's a product I wouldn't try. I guess people are apparently buying it, not people at McDonald's. I was talking to one of my grandkids last week in Idaho, and we were looking at stuff to buy, and they're like, well, what's that? And I was explaining to them, and I said, well, it's supposed to be a hamburger that's made out of vegetables. And then they said, well, let's get it. I'm like, no. And they were like, well, why not? I said, because if I want to eat vegetables, I'll eat vegetables.
Did you almost disown them over that question?
Well, they didn't understand. See, they're young, impressionable. So I learned them right, man. Taught them. Coming up.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. 8:35. Coming about 5 minutes from now. Some interesting things happened at the city council meeting last night in the city of Columbia. Then 8:50. We're going to be doing some leftovers for you here on the show.
If you're having a problem with ants, mosquitoes, or any other type of pest, don't worry because you have a friend in the pest control business, Steve's Pest Control. Find them online at stevespestcontrol.com.
Fox News, I'm Chris Foster. Al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri, killed in a drone strike, had, according to U.S. intelligence, moved to downtown Kabul, Afghanistan earlier this year to be with family.
U.S. officials did not give Taliban officials warning that these Hellfire missiles would be sent in to kill Ayman al-Zawahiri because some knew where he had been hiding out. Al-Zawahiri was taken out while on the balcony of a safe house. His family inside survived.
Fox's Alexandria Hoff at the White House. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, on her trip to Asia, has left Malaysia, now expected to be stopping in Taiwan, despite warnings from the Chinese government that would be considered a provocation. China considers Taiwan its territory. National Security Council Coordinator John Kirby.
There's no reason that this visit should escalate tensions in any way whatsoever.
He was on Fox and Friends this morning. The Chinese government had said there would be serious consequences if Pelosi visits Taiwan. The Russian government's warning the U.S. against provoking China. America's listening to Fox News.
.939 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. It is 8:31 and Robinson saves you time. Bright sunshine right now. 81 is our current temperature. It's going to be a scorcher today. A heat advisory through 8 o'clock tomorrow evening. Our high, 96 degrees. Good morning. I'm Brian Houseworth on this Election Day primary 2022. A heat advisory remains in effect for Columbia, Jeff City, all of mid-Missouri through tomorrow evening. National Weather Service meteorologist Mark Britt in St. Louis says that the highs will be in the upper 90s today and tomorrow in mid-Missouri, including Columbia. He's urging you to drink plenty of water. Voters in West Central Missouri's 4th Congressional District will have a new congressman or congresswoman in January. Vicki Hartzler giving up her seat to run for the U.S. Senate. 7 Republicans are vying for the 4th District seat. They include Harrisonville State Senator Rick Bratton, former Kansas City television news anchor Mark Alford, former Boone County Clerk Taylor Burks, Stockton farmer Kalina Bruce. The district includes northern Boone County, parts of Columbia. It is heavily Republican. The GOP primary winner faces Lamar Democrat Jack Truman in November. While the boundaries of the 47th state legislative district have changed, a GOP businessman is optimistic he will win the seat in November. The newly drawn district loses parts of Randolph, Cooper, Howard counties that add some Democratic voters in Columbia. Businessman John Martin believes he'll win it.
What I'm hearing door to door is very positive. Obviously, yes, it has changed. It takes in a little more of the old Southwest, and so it is more. It picked up some more Democratic voters, but I believe my chances are very, very strong.
Martin is unopposed in today's Republican primary. He'll face the winner of a Democratic primary today between Adrian Plank and Shimon Schwach in November. And Columbia City Manager proposes a $200,000 study of the city's bus system to Carlin Seawood. Hopes the study will allow Columbia to expand its transit system to different parts of the community. That proposal now heads to the City Council. News brought to you by Hemi Construction. It's 8:33. In sports, Cardinals were idle last night, so no game to recap for you today. They open up a 3-game homestand with the Chicago Cubs coming up tonight at Busch Stadium. Adam Wainwright on the mound. First pitch, 6:45. You'll hear it on KTGR, FM 100.5. Brandon and I will be live with election night coverage tonight, starting at 8, so you won't hear Cardinal baseball tonight. If you want to hear the Cardinals, you want to tune in to 100.5 KTGR, which is our Zimmer sports station here in Columbia, 1580 on your AM dial as well. Royal slugger Salvador Perez with Merrifield hit home runs last night. Royals beat the White Sox 2-1. Perez homering for the second straight game. He had missed more than 30 games with a thumb injury surgery as well. Our sports is brought to you in this 8 o'clock hour by Missouri Heart Center, moheartcenter.com. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 8:34. Traffic with MidmoHires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. MidmoHires.com. Find a job, post your job opening today. Our roads are pretty quiet in mid-Missouri. If you want to report a traffic issue, 573-874-9390. We'll have another update at 9:03 and breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Houseworth, 93.9 The Eagle.
For the sake of public record, I'm advocating for the closure of Wabash to camping and loitering as a matter of safety. On record, I won't be using the word unhoused. I find it personally demoralizing and lacking in humanity. When I was homeless, I was without a home. One can find a roof or a shed or an awning or a house or an opportunity center, but none of those are a home.
I love this, and there's more here. It gets even better. This is Anna Meyer. This went down at the city council meeting in the city of Columbia last night, saying the Wabash Bus Center should not be used for a warming center, what have you. And I love that, because now all of a sudden it seems over the past year, the new politically correct term, you can't say homeless anymore. You say unhoused. And as somebody who was formerly and I couch surfed back in the day. I've never been without a roof over my head, but I did some couch surfing. I had some sketchy days in my life, even into my 30s, okay? So I get what this woman is saying, but she's saying, I'm not using the term unhoused. Bless you, woman. I cannot stand for any word for that matter. I think Beyonce's got a new album out, and one of the lyrics is she's referring to somebody as a spaz, and people are, oh, so now she's going to change the lyric because you can't say the word spaz. Whatever. So what you do in these situations, so we're not going to say homeless anymore. We're going to say unhoused. So when we refer to people that are unhoused, what do we mean? Homeless people, it's the word treadmill. You can trade out some of these words. Well, we can't say that word because it hurts people's feelings. So let's use this word. Mm-hmm. That word means the same thing. You just changed the combination of letters, man. It doesn't make sense, and that's what a lot of these far-left progressives focus on. So I applaud this woman saying, I am not using the word unhoused. Quit being weak-minded snowflake individuals is what I hear her saying, and she's not done, by the way.
And the term is homeless. I mean, that's what it is. I mean,
I imagine City Councilwomen Pat Fowler and Andrea Wayner wetting their pants up there on the dais when she said, and I'm not going to call them unhoused.
Well, and she basically called the council out.
Yep.
She did.
And she wasn't done.
And I've never, in practice, heard any homeless individual refer with such othering language. One of the systemic points I'm making here is that people of privilege. Systemic points. I love that, man. She's digging. Because systemic racism. Mm-hmm. If you're white, then you're a racist. And she's just digging every which way, and she's doing it so politely. And I bet some of those folks, they didn't even get what she's doing here. Are creating this conversation of safety. The Village Arts District has long suffered from addicts, mental illness, and people seeking shelter since the before times. We also suffer from neglect by the city in equity. Equity. What's the other? Equity. It's not equitable. It's, everybody should have the same amount of money. That's socialism. Well, you can work for it to get those. Yeah, but no, because she's systemic racism. So now she's using another far left idiotic phrase, the whole equity and equitable, and she's using it against some of the most wokest people in all of mid-Missouri, and she's still not done. We pay the same district tax rate, yet we have slower police response time, fewer repairs, fewer waste receptacles, and more blighted property than our neighbors just 2 blocks south. So it's not equitable. We're paying just as much money as everybody else, but we're getting fewer services. You see how that works? I love it. I don't know this Anna Meyer, but as somebody who is formerly homeless, she said she used to be homeless, and as somebody who has done a lot of work with homeless people over the years, I still love to get out and chat with. I'll chat with panhandlers once in a while, and I'll chat with homeless people once in a while. 99% of the time, in my experience, they're not the same. Most panhandlers are not homeless. Most homeless people do not panhandle. You would find that. I went down City Council meeting last night. Welcome into the show. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. There is Hannah, the producer.
What up?
There's Brian Houseworth.
Good to see you, my friend.
My name is Branden Rathert. Welcome into the show. And the other thing, and we just got a text, Sean, and it's funny, I'm realizing 2 things this morning. With the text and the calls we're getting at 874-9390, I was almost freaking out. I remember when I was like 21 years old, and I always thought I wanted to be an attorney. Mm-hmm. Even went to a preparatory high school.
And why did you want to be an attorney?
Because I wanted to put on a suit like my grandfather and argue that I was right, and all that good stuff.
Things have changed.
Changed.
With the wardrobe, not so much wanting to argue.
Now I'm sporting flip-flops every day, man, and life is grand. But so I always want, and then I realized I didn't want to do that. And then I got to a point where I was scared, like, because I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with my life. I don't know if anybody else has ever experienced that. Like, well, I'm 21, I'm supposed to know, right? And I went to Southeast Missouri State for a while and St. Louis Community College. And I got scared for a while because I didn't know. There was a time I didn't know what I wanted to do. And it's been kind of feeling like that with these primaries today, especially when it comes to the U.S. Senate race. I'm like, even this morning, I'm still not 100% sure on who to vote for in the primary. And thank you for your texts this morning at 874-9390 and the calls. We've been getting, and Hannah can back me up on this, we're getting a lot of folks saying, I don't know.
We are.
Yeah,
That's
people walking into the poll saying, I don't know. We've had at least 2 people saying, I had to sit there at the poll filling this stuff out.
Yeah.
Not sure. So
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Are any of them saying they're voting in the Democratic primary? Or are these all Republican? Are they saying?
They're not saying. I'm going to assume.
I'm assuming most are Republican. But you know, we have Democrats who listen.
We do. The smart Democrats listen to Wake Up Mid-Missouri. If you are a Democrat, and serious, and we have welcomed more and more of those people. Thank you for bringing that up.
Because David Tyson Smith, I know he listens, and so does former Representative Kip Kendrick, Breonna Lennon.
Kip Kendrick's a good dude, by the way.
Yeah, and Martha Stevens has listened, so I know for state representative, but I'd be curious if they're saying on the Democratic side if they're going for Valentine or who the others are.
That's a fair question. If you are, and we welcome you, and we know that we have an influx of younger listeners, newer listeners, and regretful Biden voters. So I should include Trudy Bush Valentine and Lucas Kuntz
and Spencer Toder.
Toder in the Democrat primary. If you're a Democrat and you're voting on that side, please let us know who you're choosing. Thank you, Brian.
Absolutely.
Because we do have more regretful Biden voters that are like, man, let me check out this stuff, and they're checking out Wake Up Mid-Missouri. So we do appreciate that. So yeah, we're getting a lot of texts. Couldn't figure it out till the last minute. People aren't sure how they are voting. We're also getting, and Breonna Lennon, she is the clerk in Boone County, Missouri.
Yes, she is.
Jay Ashcroft, Secretary of State. He's in charge of elections on a statewide level. He said about the same.
Yeah, Breonna's projection right now, Breonna Lennon, Branden, is about 35%. She dropped that down a little bit. It originally had been 35 to 40. She's going with about 35 right now. And then Jay Ashcroft's going with 30 to 35%. So pretty, ballpark. They both hope they're a little off, and they hope that it gets higher. But, for an August election, it's pretty average. Pretty average. It's about the normal amount.
It is no longer who you vote for. It's who do you vote against. Thank you for that. Lesser of 10 evils, says Tim. 874-9390. Tina, welcome into Wake Up Mid-Missouri. What is on your mind?
Oh, good morning, sunshine. Listening to you while I was waiting, you said 35%. I went online and on Facebook and said, that is a disgrace. When in other countries they vote, they go miles and walk miles and miles and miles just for the opportunity to vote, and they wait in line for hours. I asked Cherie who she was voting for.
Cherie Tolson-Rice?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I know who I'm voting for. But she may not want me to tell you who she's voting
Right,
for.
she may not. You keep that to yourself.
So
Tina,
I can't tell you.
All right. Hey, we love you. Thank you for listening to Wake Up Mid-Missouri. And Tina, you're right. And I think one of the things I think that we've kind of taken upon us to get more people to get out and vote, because especially with this younger audience that we've been accruing over the past several months is, you don't vote. It doesn't matter if I don't vote, or why should I vote? Doesn't matter. But we've tried, and I overuse the phrase, frankly, drawing the line from point A to point B. You see how this works? When this person gets into office, and right now an easy example is Joe Biden. I mean, we look at what's happened, what he's done. 1 year ago, he killed those troops in Afghanistan. We look at the economy. We look at his lies. He doesn't get it. He lied on those tragic events of January 20th, 2021. He talked about unity. He trashes Trump every chance he gets. And people, that's why we're getting these younger listeners. We're getting these regretful Biden voters. And I think if we continue to explain, not argue. Don't get on Facebook. You don't need to win the argument. And you don't have to attend every argument that you're invited to. Some people are just stupid. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. But explain, okay, see, you're voting for these policies in this way, and here's what's happening. We have an economy that the likes of Stephanie Bell and Hannah, the producer, have never seen in their lifetimes. They've never seen this. They've never paid what they're paying for gas prices or for rent or for food or for Stephanie's breakfast biscuits. They're paying prices they have never experienced in their lifetime because that guy is in the White House. And people say, no, it's because of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. NATO is on record in Washington, D.C. We've played the audio 100 times. NATO saying, here's why Russia invaded Ukraine. Russia invaded Ukraine because they saw how poor Joe Biden's pullout of Afghanistan was. Vladimir Putin was like, Joe's nothing. We've got this. So see, that's why the vote matters. That's why it matters. And I think if we take time, and I say we, I'm not trying to be preachy here, but if we take time on the show to explain, not say, see, Joe Biden, what an idiot. Don't just tell me he's an idiot and complain about him. Give me the examples of why he is an idiot and of why he is bad for this country and the other progressive policies, whether it's on the Columbia City Council. I don't like to compare the two cities, but Jefferson City, you know what their city council just did with ARPA money? They're giving it to the Convention and Visitors Bureau for lost revenue, which is where it should go because COVID didn't damage these businesses. Leaders, servants, elected officials, they ruined businesses specifically in Columbia by telling businesses, I know we're in America, but we're taking away your choice to open up, and we're taking away people's choices to go into your business. These are facts. These are not disputable. And if we take the time to explain these things, especially to our younger generations and regretful Biden voters, we don't need to yell and whine if we explain. I think we can make more progress. 874-9390. John, what can I do for you, bud?
So I was listening to the commercials and all that, and I just thought it was really interesting that Lucas Kuntz admitted and accepted an endorsement from Bernie Sanders, a known communist, socialist. And that blows my mind that in a state where there are only 3 counties that are blue, that he would make that take that endorsement and accept it.
Again, it's that they just don't. I got the endorsement of Bernie Sanders. That's not going to help you out in Missouri. If you're looking at a Missouri red-blue map, you'll see 3 red dots in the state of Missouri. One is in Kansas City. The other blue area is St. Louis. And, John, you know where the third blue area is, right?
Yes, it is the Republic of Boone County.
It's the
Socialist Republic of Boone County.
It's the Charity of Columbia. John, I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for checking in. 874-9390. Ron, what can I do for you?
Hey, I wanted to talk about the percentage of voters that projected to be voting this time around. There's no way to know how many eligible voters there are in Boone County because they do not clear the voting rolls, the registrations of old voters. My daughter moved out of Boone County over 20 years ago, and she still gets notices about elections. So with the college and people moving in and out, our voter rolls are so overbloated that there's no way of knowing what the percentage of eligible voters is.
Yeah,
it's not even worth talking about.
I don't know what the percentage of eligible. You mean eligible voters is in people that are 18 registered to vote, or people that are just that are eligible to register to vote?
No, those that are eligible to vote because they still live in Boone County.
Yeah,
they're probably registered in Boone County, but they haven't lived here for 20 years. And the Democrats will not clear the voting rolls because they like to have bloated rolls.
Ron, thank you for the phone call, man. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to be a part of Wake Up Mid-Missouri here on 93.9 The Eagle. You can get on to, cool thing is you can get on to whoever your county clerk is. You can get on their website and you can see like how many voters are registered. Now it's a different thing what we were just talking about with our previous caller, but how many. These are the people that are registered to vote. Here was voter turnout amongst registered voters, for example, in the municipal election. All right, coming up, we're going to move on to the next thing before we get into the Gary Nolan Show, leftovers. I love leftovers. We open up the fridge and see what it is that we haven't gotten to today. We're going to do that for you 5 minutes from now here on
Good first day, a lot of excitement out there, obviously, just like any first day of fall camp. Plenty to coach off of, plenty to look at and correct. Today was really kind of the floor of who we can become, and there's a lot more ceiling to go. A lot of really good competitions.
Mizzou head football coach Eli Drinkwitz yesterday talking about first day of hardcore practice. You know, we are less than a month away from the start of the Mizzou football season, opening up at home. This is going to be a Thursday night game, September the 1st, 7 o'clock. Mizzou hosting Louisiana Tech, and Eli Drinkwitz. A lot of hope and a lot of expectations going into the next season here, and I love that. It's like spring training with baseball. You know, you start every year, and there's all this optimism and hope, which is a wonderful thing to have. I've got hope, got optimism, and it's like that with football before the season starts, whether it's college or pro. It's like that with spring training and baseball. And I'd like to think, we should, we have a lot of hope every day we start our day. There's hope. Hey, we could do something spectacular today, even if it's just being nice to other folks. There's all kinds of things that we can do. It's like spring training. Welcome into the show. Glad you could be here. Gary Nolan show's coming up just minutes from now. My dad's favorite part of his favorite show, actually, here on the radio station.
Here's a big old serving of leftovers on 93.9 The Eagle. Enjoy.
Leftovers, things we did not get to during the show, and I think one thing we did not get. We kind of briefly mentioned this with Christopher Arps, Missouri Politico, joined us this morning. OAN, One American News, I think is what the network was called. Pretty much done. DirecTV dropped them a while ago, and now Verizon has dropped them. So I don't know if you ever watched OAN, but they are pretty much done. No audience means no money. A staffer for Democratic congressman has quit his job after he used the congressman's account to call a user borderline retarded and effing dip. He's without a job this morning, which will happen if you get onto Twitter and start using language like that. You might be without a job. Nolan Show is next. You drive around, we're seeing a lot of brown dead grass. Missouri looks brown right now, which is kind of weird because usually we're this vivacious green.